Back in the 70s, I was chased into the river by a vicious dog at the village entrance. Shin Jingqing jumped in to save me when I was hanging by a thread. Soon the village buzzed with gossip about us, and his fiancée called off their engagement. Left with no choice, Shin Jingqing reluctantly married me. After our marriage, he resented me for coming between him and Gu Qianru, treating me with constant coldness. Later, he even discovered an old love letter I'd written him years ago while going through my belongings. This only reinforced his belief that I'd schemed deliberately. Even my accidental fall into water became part of my calculated ploy to trap him. To retaliate, he secretly used his spousal authority to transfer my rightful job opportunity to Gu Qianru without my knowledge. With Shin Jingqing paving her way, she rose from a community teacher to a full professor, basking in glory every step of the way. Meanwhile, I spent my entire life stuck in the most mundane grassroots position, living out an utterly mediocre existence. Over the years, I watched coldly as my husband doted on another woman, securing her jobs, funding her education, draping coats over her shoulders when she shivered, wiping her tears when she cried. When the heartache finally numbed me, the realization struck I'd made a terrible mistake marrying Shin Jingqing. Countless times I've wondered, had I refused his marriage proposal, would my life have taken a different path? In the dead of night, I fell asleep once more with tears of regret staining my cheeks. When I opened my eyes again, I'd miraculously returned to that fateful day I nearly drowned. Jimei, grabbed my hand. The girl's shrill voice pierced my ears. I snapped back to reality. The weightless sensation of falling down hospital stairs morphing into the sinking dread of drowning. Through the splashing water, I saw my childhood friend Gu Shaoqin desperately reaching out toward me, yet she remained several steps away from the shore. At that distance, there was no way I could reach her fingertips. I'll get help, just hold on. She scrambled to her feet and dashed toward the distant fields where several villagers were working. That's when I realized I'd actually been reborn back in the 70s, before I'd even married Shin Jingqing. That day, while doing laundry with Gu Shaoqin, a stray dog came out of nowhere, barking furiously at me and even attempting to lunge at me. Terrified, I stumbled backward in panic when suddenly an unseen force shoved me into the water amidst the chaos. Just like in our past life, Gu Shaoqin began screaming for help toward the people working in the fields. But among that crowd, apart from the elderly folks, only Shin Jingqing knew how to swim. He rushed to the riverbank and, seeing me choking on water without hesitation, jumped in to save me. What began as an act of kindness unexpectedly bound us together in a lifetime of love and resentment. 1. After Shin Jingqing rescued me in my past life, I spent all my savings to buy him a wristwatch from the city as gratitude. Not long after, Gu Shaoqin suddenly came running with news for me. Zaimi, it's terrible. The whole village is saying you and Shin Jingqing are having an improper affair. The news hit me like a thunderbolt. In these times, open relationships still aren't fully accepted. Backward areas remain steeped in conservative, feudalistic attitudes. Being accused of moral misconduct is serious enough, let alone when Shin Jingqing already has a fiancé. Villagers passing by would point at me and shoot me strange looks. Some swore they'd seen me by the riverbank, locked in an indecent embrace with Shin Jingqing, our lips pressed together shamelessly. Others claimed I'd never fallen into the water accidentally, that we'd been caught in the act of daytime debauchery when I slipped into the river. The watch I'd gifted him became damning evidence of these supposed transgressions. The rumors snowballed until I was practically drowning in a sea of gossip. Back then, I was barely 20, young, naive, and wet behind the ears. Faced with such a situation, I fell apart completely, reduced to tearful helplessness. Shin Jingqing wasn't faring any better either. Rumor has it that his fiancée Gu Qianru showed up with her parents to call off the engagement, causing quite a scandal. Shin Jingqing and Gu Qianru were classmates deeply in love, on the verge of marriage when this unexpected turn of events occurred. Despite risking harassment accusations, he desperately tried to salvage the relationship for months. But Gu Qianru's resolve to break the engagement remained unshakable, no matter how much we clarified. Few would believe us. With rumors spreading like wildfire, we felt like being fried in a pan of boiling oil. During that period, I'd get up every night to pack my belongings. Through tears, I thought, worst case, I'd just leave this place and start over somewhere secluded. But before long, Shin Jingqing unexpectedly arrived with betrothal gifts. The recent turmoil had drained his youthful vigor, and even his handsome features carried a faint weariness. The moment he saw me, he said, Jimei, since things have come to this, why don't I just marry you? He asked me, will you marry me? Was I really willing? For decades afterward, I was haunted by regret for giving the wrong answer. Had I refused him then, perhaps my life wouldn't have been so full of hardship. I wouldn't have toiled in the fields for years, only to return to the city and watch helplessly as someone else took my job. It shouldn't be like this after marriage, my husband showering attention on another woman while leaving me alone in an empty bed. 2. I shouldn't have kept overestimating myself by comparing to Gu Chanru, only to retreat in shame every time. Among the three of us, we're the ones with the marriage certificate, yet I feel more like the other woman. We fought, I cried, I made scenes. But what ultimately broke me was the sheer disgust in Shen Jingqing's eyes. He said, "You know exactly how our marriage came to be. The greatest regret of my life is what I did to Chanru. This is the debt we owe her." I broke down. What debt? Wasn't it her who insisted on breaking off the engagement? Wasn't it you, Shen Jingqing, who came knocking with betrothal gifts to marry me? Never once did I intend to come between you two, yet he condemned me to eternal damnation over that love letter I never even sent, stripping me of any chance at redemption. Leaving me to drown alone in this loveless marriage for all these years, watching his retreating figure turn away heartlessly again and again, I choked back sobs. Shen Jingqing, I truly wish I'd never met you in this lifetime. His departing footsteps suddenly froze, though I couldn't see his expression, yet I heard him speak with near-perfect indifference. If possible, I too wish I'd never pulled you from the river that day. Only at this moment did I truly believe Shen Jingqing wasn't just speaking in anger, as I struggled in the water. Gu Shaoqin dragged Shen Jingqing toward me. "Brother Shen, hurry, Ji Jimei fell into the water, go save her." In our past life, Shen Jingqing had stripped off his clothes and jumped in without hesitation, terrified that even a second's delay might endanger me, yet at this moment, he hesitated, watching me flounder in the water, his gaze turned solemn. "Men and women shouldn't mingle like this, it's improper. Better find a female who can swim." Gu Shaoqin was hopping mad with impatience. Good heavens. At a time like this, you're still worried about propriety, saving lives comes first. Are you just going to stand there and watch her drown? She dragged Shen Jingqing toward the riverbank, her voice blaring like a megaphone. The commotion naturally drew more onlookers. As the growing crowd approached, Shen Jingqing's expression darkened further. His brows were furrowed so tightly they could crush a fly. He shook off Gu Shaoqin's hand, visibly recoiling at her attempt to drag him toward the rescue. I said no means no. I'll find a woman who can swim to save her. With that, he dashed off, leaving Gu Shaoqin standing there dumbfounded. She was hopping around in panic. "Can anyone swim? Ji Jimei's drowning. Someone help her." Yet no one responded. Having heard everything, I couldn't help but sneer inwardly. It seems Shen Jingqing has also been reborn, so those words he said weren't just spoken in anger. He genuinely wished me dead, to remove me as an obstacle to his marriage with Gu Chanru. A wave of desolation washed over me. Under Gu Shaoqin's astonished gaze, I slowly swam to shore, dripping wet. I climbed out from the riverbank and walked home calmly. Gu Shaoqin came running over, her eyes wide with shock. Jimei, you can swim. How come I never knew that?" The discomfort left me too drained to explain properly. I just mumbled a vague response before hurrying back. On my way home, I happened to run into Shen Jingqing, who'd turned back. He hurried along, accompanied by a robust-looking woman. The woman kept nagging at him, "A drowning man can't wait. It's been too long. He's probably gone." Meeting my mocking gaze, Shen Jingqing froze on the spot. He stared at me blankly. "Drowning waits for no one." Had I still been that Ji Jimei from my past life who couldn't swim, those few minutes of his delay would have been enough to drown me. Without a word, I brushed past them. "Shen Jingqing, thank goodness you didn't save me this time, because just like you, I want absolutely nothing to do with you anymore. Thank heavens for giving me this chance to set things right." Back home, I quickly took a shower and changed out of my soaked clothes. The first thing I needed to do was find that love letter I'd written in the heat of the moment. Back when we were all sent to the countryside together, Shen Jingqing immediately stood out from the crowd like a crane among chickens, with his handsome features and gentle demeanor. He never complained about hard work and always lent a helping hand to those in need. It was inevitable that I'd develop feelings for him. Back then, I didn't know he was engaged. When I found out, I was heartbroken for a while before burying those feelings deep down. Little did I know that this love letter, written in a moment of reckless passion, would later become evidence he used to condemn me. Shen Jingqing confronted me with that letter countless times. He was convinced I'd schemed to get close to him, deliberately falling into the river to tarnish our relationship. He called me shameless, accusing me of using my virtue as a woman to entrap him. No matter how I explained, he wouldn't listen. I wanted to say it was just an accident, that I was truly drowning. Who would joke about their own life? Yet all my explanations fell on deaf ears. Without hesitation, I tossed that love letter into the courtyard brazier. If all this is wrong, then it shouldn't exist in this world at all. "What the hell are you doing?" Shen Jingqing strode over, and his pupils dilated the moment he saw what I was burning. Jijime, have you lost your mind? How could you burn the love letters you wrote me? I stared at him with an expressionless face. Why not? If I recall correctly, this belongs to me. How I deal with it is my prerogative, he blurted out. But you gave this to me. Shin Jingqing's words trailed off abruptly. He took a deep breath to calm himself. Then he questioned me in that all too familiar accusatory tone. Jijime, you've been reborn too, haven't you? That's why you're treating me like this. You were lying to me in our past life. You could swim all along, yet you pretended for years, making me save you on purpose and ruining my engagement with Chanru. I never imagined he could speak to me with such shameless condescension when we're not even married. Shin Jingqing. What right do you have to interrogate me? In this lifetime, we're practically strangers. Besides, can't you go one day without falsely accusing me? Last time I nearly drowned, spent a week on 4 drips at the city hospital. No sane person would gamble with their life like that. What, you think you're so irresistible that I'd risk death just to test whether you'd save a complete stranger? Meeting his wavering gaze, I said. The reason I learned to swim now is because during those decades married to you, I regretted every single day not knowing how. Had I been able to climb out myself that day, would I have given you the chance to torment me later? He probably never expected me to say something so heartless. This was something he'd never even considered, because in our past life, no matter how I tried to explain, he refused to believe me. He was convinced I'd fallen into the water deliberately to lure him into rescuing me, that I'd schemed to ruin his reputation just to force him into marriage, so he hated me, resented me, and throughout our marriage, he wounded me with needles that didn't kill but made me bleed all the same. Only when I actually climbed out of the water by myself did he finally have to believe what I'd said. I truly would rather have never met him than have him save me one more time. The young man's face turned ashen. He could barely stand steady, yet still managed to say what you will, but in this lifetime, don't interfere with my relationship with Chanru again. We'll get married and correct our past mistakes. With that, he stared at my face as if waiting for something. He was probably waiting for me to lose my cool, hoping to see me angry and jealous, but I didn't give him the satisfaction. 3. I simply smiled and wished him well. Oh really? Then I wish you a lifetime of happiness together. Late at night, by the dim light of a kerosene lamp, I studied the rustication approval letter spread across the desk. It's like a certificate of honor, urging us to answer the call and contribute to rural development. Through it, I glimpsed fragments of my past lives. I spent half my lifetime toiling away in mediocrity. Busy yet numb, every day is packed, yet my heart remains hollow. As someone who's loved reading since childhood, I find no fulfillment in my current job. I once considered furthering my education. I wanted to take the postgraduate entrance exam, to reach for greater heights, but whenever I picked up a book, Shin Jingqing would mock me, laughing at my overambition. He even thought I was just trying to compete with Gu Chanru. By then, she had already been admitted to a top-tier university in the country. Sometimes I can't even tell whether my desire to study stems from genuine interest or, as Shin Jingqing claims, just another competition. What also weighs me down are the endless household chores. Shin Jingqing's mother is particularly difficult. With my father-in-law perpetually hospitalized, she used to care for him personally, but after I married into the family, she finally found her scapegoat, constantly ordering me to tend to him at the hospital while she goes off playing mahjong. When I finally got time off and wanted to read at home, she'd wail about how unfilial I was, accusing me of using excuses to avoid caring for my father-in-law. Back then I was trying to mend my marriage with Shin Jingqing, afraid he'd misunderstand me. I resigned myself to hospital visits, changing bedpans and cleaning up after my father-in-law. Eventually, my time got so squeezed I could only study during breaks at work. It all came crashing down when I collapsed at the office from sheer exhaustion. I woke up in the hospital to find a crowd of relatives had arrived, not to check on me, but to lecture me on behalf of Shin Jingqing and my mother-in-law. They scolded me for being ungrateful, for obsessing over some graduate school exam instead of appreciating my comfortable life. Why stir up trouble? They said. You should be Shin Jingqing's supportive wife. They insisted. Manage the household while he climbs the corporate ladder. Once he gets promoted, you'll have everything. Why bother with grad school? Back then, their constant nagging actually clouded my judgment. I foolishly gave up my education to willingly take care of his household. God knows what possessed me back then. Looking back now, I was utterly senseless. Some men won't appreciate women sacrificing their ambitions to become homemakers. Eventually, they'll even resent her for losing her spark. Most women remain trapped in domesticity, foolishly sacrificing their right to pursue better lives just to uphold the good woman image. That was exactly me in my past life. Shin Jingqing always accused me of envying Gu Qianru, and he was right. I did envy her, not because she received more of Shin's affection, but because she refused to be shackled by domestic duties. She spent her life chasing dreams until she finally claimed the very position she'd once admired, in the dead of night. Memories of past regrets set my heart ablaze. Since fate has granted me this second chance, I won't let myself down again. The next day, I sought out the village chief. Hearing my request, the chief's face registered surprise. Xiao Ji, are you saying you want to transfer to another village for development work? Would that be possible? Village chief, I've already made an enemy of Shin Jingqing. Knowing he'll achieve great things in the future, and now with memories from his past life, he'll only rise to power faster this time. I need to put as much distance between us as possible, otherwise when he makes it big, he might hold a grudge and make my life miserable. The village chief scratched his head awkwardly. Well, I've never dealt with something like this before. I'll need to request instructions from higher-ups. Why don't you go home and wait for our response? I'll notify you immediately once we have a decision. I nodded with faint disappointment. Deep down, I'd already anticipated the outcome. After all, young people were always assigned to villages according to organizational arrangements. Cases like mine, wanting to switch locations, were probably rare. I kept working in the fields under the scorching sun. When I ran into Shin Jingqing, I treated him like thin air. I walked straight past him without a glance. Several times I noticed him opening his mouth to speak, but he swallowed his words when met with my icy stare. Gu Xiaoqin came over to me, her neck glistening with sweat, clicking her tongue at something in the distance. Jimei, Gu Qianru is so lucky. Why don't I have a fiancé like Shin Jingqing? Following her gaze, I saw many girls in the field staring at Gu Qianru with envious eyes. It turned out that while Gu Qianru was working, Shin Jingqing had come to visit her. Bringing chilled mung bean soup, his heart ached for her, so he took all her tasks upon himself and had her rest on a nearby rock. During the break, Shin Jingqing took out a handkerchief to wipe Gu Qianru's sweat, a perfect match that made onlookers green with envy. Call it intuition. But even while doting on Gu Qianru, his gaze kept drifting subtly in my direction. I scoffed. What they saw as enviable, I found utterly repulsive. After all, it was me who taught him how to make that mung bean soup in our past life. In the following days, I actively kept my distance from Shin Jingqing, determined to cut ties. He probably thought I was playing hard to get, but only I knew the truth. I genuinely wanted to avoid repeating past mistakes, though I'd loved Shin Jingqing with all my heart in our previous life. That sincere affection had been utterly crushed by our loveless marriage. What took me by surprise was trouble came looking for me when I wasn't even seeking it. That morning, I was still lost in dreams. Half asleep, I heard the door being pounded like thunder. A man's voice seethed with rage. Jimei, get out here this instant. I hastily threw on my coat and opened the door to find Shin Jingqing's face contorted with fury. His eyes were dark with malice, glaring at me as if he wanted to tear me apart with his teeth. He roughly grabbed my wrist and stormed toward the broadcasting station. He yanked me so hard it hurt, and I snarled through gritted teeth, Shin Jingqing, have you lost your damn mind? Let go of me, let go right now. He turned a deaf ear, gripping my wrist even tighter as if afraid I'd break free. The pain was so intense I thought my bones might snap. Tears spilled unbidden down my cheeks as waves of humiliation crashed over me. It wasn't until he brought me to the broadcasting station that I understood Shin Jingqing's intentions. A dense crowd had gathered over there. The village chief, local residents, and Gu Qianru were all present. Her delicate figure swayed like a willow in the crowd, her quiet sobs making her appear even more pitiful. Shin Jingqing rushed forward and grasped Gu Qianru's hand. Qianru, I brought Jimei here. Hear her explanation yourself. I swear I didn't jump into the river to save her that day. Gu Qianru turned away, her shoulders still trembling with silent sobs. The village chief watched her tear-streaked face with helpless sympathy, clearing his throat. He said, Comrade Gu, speak your grievances, we'll see justice done. Only then did she speak. Village chief, I have just one demand. I want to break off my engagement with Shin Jingqing. The man's eyes turned red as he shouted hoarsely, Why, Qianru, are you rejecting me again in this lifetime? He gripped Gu Qianru's shoulders, demanding an answer. Gu Shiru said with grievance, when Jimei fell into the water that day, Gu Xiaoqin claimed she saw you jump in to rescue her. You even gave her mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. You held each other close, skin against skin. How could you treat your own fiancé like this? I can't bear this humiliation. I'm calling off our engagement. My gaze shifted to Gu Xiaoqin in the crowd. She averted her eyes, not daring to meet my stare. Shin Jingqing explained, I didn't rescue her. She swam up on her own. As for mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, that's absolute nonsense. The girl broke free from his embrace. But so many people saw it with their own eyes, yet when questioning those villagers about who actually witnessed it, they all denied seeing anything firsthand, claiming they'd only heard it through the grapevine. Gu Xiaoqin was the only one who witnessed the entire incident that day, yet she's been spreading malicious rumors everywhere. Before I could confront her, Shen Jingqing dragged me forward again. Ji Jimei, tell me, how did you get out of the water that day? Don't you dare lie to me. Or you'll regret it. Watching him seethe with rage just to cut ties with me, I felt more certain than ever, I didn't love him anymore. In fact, it made me sick. I replied calmly, I can swim, why would I need his help? You're lying. Xiaoqin said you can't swim at all. You've never dared to go near the river. Comrade Ji, if you're bold enough to steal someone's fiancé, at least own up to it. Gu Shiru glared at me, her pitiful expression winning her even more sympathy from the crowd. I immediately felt the scornful gazes. These people were once again labeling me as a homewrecker who'd seduced someone's fiancé. Spotting the river nearby, an idea struck me. I turned to the crowd and said, follow me. Without hesitation, I jumped into the water right before everyone's eyes. 1 minute, 2 minutes passed until the ripples on the water's surface stilled. Someone gasped in horror. Oh God, has she drowned? On the shore, Shen Jingqing clenched his fists, his breathing momentarily ragged. After what felt like an eternity, I finally broke the surface and swam ashore with practiced ease. My clothes were soaked through again, with my hair plastered to my face. I was a complete mess, I said coldly, convinced now, I can swim just fine without needing his rescue. I'd never stoop so low as to gamble with my life just to seduce a man. You rumor-mongering fools are utterly ridiculous. No more doubts were voiced, and many flushed with shame over their earlier suspicions. The village chief barked out a couple of shouts. Just a misunderstanding, everyone disperse and get back to work. Under cover of darkness, Gu Xiaoqin sneaked out of her house, unnoticed by her. I quietly trailed behind. When we reached a secluded spot, I heard her murmur in a plaintive voice, sis, I swear I'm not lying, Ji Jimei couldn't swim before. Who knew she'd manage to climb out that day? And the person who met her in the darkness turned out to be Gu Qianru. Gu Xiaoqin's a local. When I first arrived, she mentioned her uncle from out of town had a daughter, a beautiful college student in the city, the whole family's pride. So they're cousins. What perfect camouflage. Her pretty face flushed with rage as she berated Gu Xiaoqin mercilessly. You idiot. What kind of half-baked scheme was this? Now I can't break off the engagement with Shen Jingqing, while Wen was waiting to marry me. What am I supposed to do now? Xia Wenhua, in her past life, Gu Qianru had married him. Back then, Xia was the leader of the educated youth group, sent here from his wealthy family for tempering. In the previous lifetime, Gu Qianru and Xia Wenhua had clearly no connection whatsoever, yet they rushed into marriage just 2 months after her engagement with Shen Jingqing was called off. Now it's clear this was premeditated all along. Even that vicious dog incident in her past life was orchestrated by Gu Qianru's faction. Gu Xiaoqin's role was to lure Shen Jingqing into rescuing her, then spread rumors afterward. Had everything gone according to plan, she would have used this as pretext to dissolve her engagement and marry into the prestigious Xia family. I gritted my teeth in secret, itching to stride over and slap her across the face twice. Back then, Shen Jingqing was just a poor young man sent to the countryside with bleak prospects. Years later, he rose to become a department head with a flourishing political career, while the Xia family's fortunes declined after being reported. Not long after Shen Jingqing's rise, Gu Qianru divorced Xia Wenhua. Soon after, she began hanging around the Shen household constantly under the pretense of reminiscing. She tearfully complained about Xia Wenhua's mistreatment, how her in-laws tormented her with constant disapproval. After enduring humiliation in the Xia household, she finally seized the chance to leave by promising a no-alimony divorce when they went bankrupt. She said Shen Jingqing was the only acquaintance she had left in this city. Later, playing the damsel in distress, she manipulated Shen into securing her a university position, funding her education, and leveraging his connections to pave her way. Gu Qianru had Shen Jingqing wrapped around her finger, completely oblivious that she'd once discarded him like yesterday's trash. My hands clenched and unclenched in the darkness, my expression shifting from fury to a sardonic smile. I won't tell Shen Jingqing. Let him remain in the dark and relive the feeling of being toyed with by his beloved. When he finally discovers the truth, it'll be quite a spectacle. I know Gu Qianru won't be able to wait much longer, because in my past life, around this exact time, Xia Wenhua was soon transferred, rising from deputy team leader of the production brigade all the way to workshop deputy director. The future looked so bright that Gu Qianru couldn't wait to marry him, eager to start their picture-perfect life together. But what truly shocked me was how I'd still underestimated Gu Chanru's shamelessness. Who could have imagined that when she failed to tarnish another's virtue, she'd stoop so low as to ruin her own? At dawn's first rooster crow, Gu Shaqin came banging on my door in a frenzy, grabbing my arm and saying, "Something terrible's happened, come quick." Without knowing why, I ran after her and asked, "What's going on?" Team leader Xia was drinking with some department heads last night. On his way back, he took a wrong turn and accidentally entered the wrong room. This morning, people found him sleeping in the same room as Gu Chanru. Before I could fully process this information, I arrived at Gu Chanru's place to find a huge crowd gathered, even bigger than the one at the broadcasting station that day. He froze. Xia Wenhua was frantically explaining to the crowd, "It was the alcohol's fault. My room and Comrade Gu's are just too close together. It was dark, I couldn't see clearly, and she forgot to lock her door. That's how I ended up in the wrong room by mistake. I swear on my honor, nothing happened between us. I just slept on the floor last night. Look at all this dust on my back. Does this look like it came from a bed?" Gu Chanru was sobbing uncontrollably when she suddenly lunged at the wall, screaming, "I don't want to live anymore." A sharp-eyed villager stopped her just an inch from the wall. "Comrade Gu, what are you doing? Don't do anything rash. Life is precious." Gu Shiru sobbed, "I've wronged Jingqing. How can I face anyone now? How could I possibly be his wife? Let me go. I want to die." The village chief slapped his thigh in exasperation, pleading, "It's not that serious, Shen Jingqing, say something." The young man's tall frame swayed slightly in the crowd, his face pale as he murmured, "Shiru, I don't blame you. This wasn't your fault. I'll still marry you." But Gu Shiru refused to relent. She would never accept this outcome. "I don't care what you say. With so many witnesses, my reputation is ruined. I won't force you into this marriage. Rather than have you endure public scorn as my husband, I'd rather die." With that, she lunged at the wall again. After several attempts, blood finally trickled from her forehead. An elderly villager stepped forward to mediate. "After this scandal, even if accidental, Miss Gu can't possibly marry Shen Jingqing with such tarnished honor. Truth be told, this engagement was never meant to be. Why not dissolve it? If Xia Wenhua is willing to take responsibility for Miss Gu, that might turn misfortune into blessing." Xia Wenhua eagerly responded, "I will. I swear to take full responsibility for Comrade Gu. To make amends, I'll treat her right." Gu Shiru was still sniveling, but had stopped her suicidal dramatics. All eyes turned to Shen Jingqing, waiting for his nod of approval. Shen Jingqing glanced at Gu Shiru warily, as if any denial from him would send her crashing into walls again. She kept claiming she refused to marry him to avoid public scorn, but was that truly the case? When he remained silent, Gu Chanru let out another wail and threw herself at the wall with all her might, sending everyone scrambling to restrain her. "Comrade Shen, just agree. Do you really want to watch Comrade Gu die right here?" "Exactly. She's staking her life to prove her sincerity. Clearly this isn't some sordid affair. Let her go. If she actually married you afterward, think how people would judge her. She'd be better off with team leader Xia Wenhua." Shen Jingqing's handsome face drained of color, his eyes dull and filled with despair. 5. Why couldn't he and Gu Chanru make it work even in this second chance at life? Under the storm of persuasion from the crowd, the young man finally gave a reluctant nod. Gu Chanru's tension melted away as she exchanged a triumphant glance with Xia Wenhua. "Having witnessed this whole spectacle, I was just about to head home. Suddenly, Gu Shaoqin grabbed my wrist. She exclaimed loudly, "Jimei, now that brother Shen is single again, you can finally pursue him." Instantly, all eyes turned toward me. So that's her game. No wonder Gu Shaoqin insisted on dragging me here. She's afraid Shen Jingqing might keep pestering Gu Chanru after breaking off their engagement, so she's exposing my secret crush on him in public to tie us together. I wrenched my hand away and snapped, "Gu Shaoqin, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't just spout nonsense." Gu Shaoqin shrieked, "What nonsense? Didn't you admit having feelings for brother Shen but backed off because he's engaged? You even wrote him a love letter." I saw it myself. I let out 2 cold laughs. This time I seized her wrist in a vice grip. "So you claim I wrote him a letter? Fine, search my house. If you find nothing, I'm reporting you to the town police for slander and defamation." At my insistence, everyone went back to my house. Right in front of everyone, we turned the place upside down but still couldn't find that love letter Gu Shaoqin claimed existed. Seeing me actually packing up to drag her to the town police station, the village chief and several villagers quickly stopped me, forcing Gu Shaoqin to bow her head and apologize. Left with no choice, Gu Shaoqin blushed and muttered over a dozen sorry-s to me. I stopped what I was doing and added, "Since everyone's here today, Regarding that incident where I was slandered about having improper relations with Comrade Shen after nearly drowning, I feel compelled to set the record straight. With righteous indignation, I declared, I, Ji Mei, have absolutely no feelings whatsoever for Shen Jingqing, nor have I ever considered marrying him. If anyone dares spread rumors about us again, I'll go straight to the police. I'd rather die than have my reputation tarnished. Mark my words. I'd sooner become a nun and remain unmarried my whole life than wed that man, or may lightning strike me dead where I stand. Amid the crowd, Shen Jingqing turned deathly pale, staring at me in utter disbelief. He murmured, How could you say such things? I couldn't be bothered to watch his pathetic dramatics. After shooing everyone out, I slammed the door shut with a bang. Peace finally returned to the world, perhaps from the shock. Shen Jingqing fell seriously ill for several days and disappeared from the village for quite some time. Then the village chief came looking for me again. There's progress on that matter you mentioned. The higher-ups say your request is unusual, but not impossible to arrange. The catch is, if you want to leave here, you'd have to go to the northwest region. The sandstorms there are brutal, and conditions are much harsher than here. I'm not sure a young woman like you could handle it. I nodded eagerly. Village chief, I'm willing to go. As long as I can get away from this place, any hardship is acceptable. In a few years, the college entrance exams will be reinstated, and all these educated youths will gradually return to the cities. Compared to that tangible hope, what do a little hardship and exhaustion matter? All right, pack your things. Once the notice comes through, I'll arrange transportation for you. On the eve of my departure, I summoned Gu Shaoqin. It's time to settle some old scores. Gu Shaoqin shrank back when she saw me. What did you call me here for? I already apologized last time. What more do you want? I smiled at her. Shaoqin, don't say that. I'm not that petty. I just noticed we've grown distant lately and wanted to make up with you. I went all the way to town to buy you these earrings as an apology. Come get them. I dangled the earrings in my hand. And Gu Shaoqin's eyes immediately lit up, the moment she got close. I kicked her straight into the river, so that mysterious force that pushed me into the river when I was being chased by dogs, it was her doing all along. Ji Mei, you're insane. I'm telling the village chief. I looked down imperiously as she flailed in the water. Go ahead. I never officially reported you to the town authorities last time anyway. Perfect chance to settle old scores. Nobody saw me push you, but the whole village witnessed you framing me. Gu Shaoqin. Remember, what's done in the dark will come to light. I know every dirty secret between you and your cousin. Lay one more finger on me and I'll expose everything. Ruin her marriage to Xia Wenhua. I'll take you both down with me. Did you really think Ji Mei would take this lying down? Keep pushing me and you'll regret it. Gu Shaoqin trembled in the water, only beginning to feel real fear when she met my ice-cold gaze. She suddenly realized the water wasn't deep, it only reached her chest when standing, though no longer in mortal danger. Her heart still pounded with lingering terror. I was wrong. Ji Mei, please let me go. I swear I won't tell anyone you pushed me today. Don't you dare interfere with my cousin marrying team leader Xia, or my father will beat me to death. Back home, I continued packing my belongings. There's nothing I can do to Gu Chanru right now. She's under Xia Wenhua's protection. If I confront her directly, I'll only end up worse off. But once she marries into the Xia family, it won't be long before they start their shady business ventures. That's when I'll anonymously report them, shattering her wealthy socialite fantasy and sending her crashing down from the clouds into utter misery. The village chief said a car would be waiting for me in town at 3 p.m., so I needed to catch the ox cart at the village entrance. By noon, I'd already packed my things and was ready to leave. To my surprise, when I opened the door, Shen Jingqing was standing right outside. A serious illness had left him noticeably thinner, his face drawn with exhaustion, his pupils contracted at the sight of my luggage. Where are you going? A bad premonition struck me. Telling the truth might make leaving difficult. After all, he never got to marry Gu Chanru in this lifetime. He'd likely take it out on me again. Hardly willing to let me go, so I lied. An elder at home is gravely ill. I need to visit for about a month before returning. Shen Jingqing let out a sigh of relief. It suddenly dawned on him that he couldn't bear Ji Mei's departure. Thankfully, she was just visiting family. After a long silence, Shen Jingqing suddenly lowered his head and muttered, I owe you an apology. I misunderstood you before. You never actually intended to sabotage my engagement with Gu Chanru. I hurled insults at you that day. Even dragged you violently to the broadcasting station for explanations. You must despise me now. Ji Mei. I cut him off impatiently. 6. What's your damn point? Shen Jingqing. You think I want your pathetic apology? All I want is to stay the hell away from you this lifetime. Don't bother me. And I won't bother you, let's just go our separate ways. Shin Jingqing looked utterly devastated, his body swaying unsteadily. How could you be so heartless? After all we've been through as husband and wife, do you really feel nothing for me? He gazed at me with desperate hope in his eyes. I couldn't help but find his expression laughable. He seemed to have forgotten how he'd treated me before. I'd be happy to remind him. Affection. Did you ever show me even an ounce of it? Shin Jingqing. Have you forgotten how you humiliated me? You married me for your reputation, then treated me like dirt. You kept me as a decorative piece in your home, a decade of icy indifference. Did it ever occur to you that I'm human too, that my heart could break? I nodded. Remember how you cut me down with your cruel words, accusing me of scheming to marry you, calling me shameless, comparing me to Gu Qianru, saying I wasn't fit to lick her boots. You ground me into the dirt. Where was this affection you speak of then? To spite me, you gave my rightful position to Gu Qianru, forcing me into menial labor. You were my husband, yet you bent over backwards for others. Why didn't you preach about affection back then? The words came out between sobs, tears falling before I even realized it. Decades of grievances, even rebirth couldn't erase them from my heart. But how could mere words ever capture this depth of pain? When Gu Qianru came to you after her divorce, I drafted separation papers 3 times. Each time you refused, claiming your promotion was at stake. You never loved me, yet you trapped me. Even if I wrongfully separated you and Qianru in the past, when I tried to set you free, you wouldn't let me go. Shin Jingqing, do you have any idea how much I despise you? As I opened my mouth, I seemed to see again that woman from my past life, utterly broken by the icy indifference of marriage. For decades, I poured my whole heart into warming yours, yet you remained cold. Now I'm exhausted. I just want to take care of myself. You once said saving me from the river was your greatest regret. Well, the feeling's mutual. I regret ever loving you, entertaining foolish fantasies, and saying yes to your proposal in a moment of madness, a lifetime of devotion wasted. Thank God we've been reborn. Let's stop this torment, release each other, and live our separate lives in peace. With your qualities, you'll surely find someone better. I'll stay far away, you marry yours, I'll marry mine, never to cross paths again. I thought stepping back would let me coexist peacefully with Shin Jingqing. But it's like he's been cursed or something. The young man shook his head, eyes red-rimmed, gazing at me with remorse as he bared his heart. Jimei, believe it or not, after reliving this life, I see my own heart more clearly now. My feelings for Gu Qianru were just unresolved regrets from our past lives. When she called off our engagement, I merely felt unsettled, but hearing you sever ties with me, saying you'd rather become a nun than marry me, it felt like being stabbed through the heart. I know I've wronged you deeply in the past, but it doesn't matter now that we're reborn. This is our second chance, a gift from fate. I'll spend this lifetime making it up to you tenfold. If you still resent me now, let me court you properly this time, please. Hearing these words made me sick to my stomach, but I couldn't show it. I turned away and pretended to consider. How do I know you're telling the truth? I need to think about it more. Shin Jingqing took this as a sign that there was still hope between us, his eyes lighting up with renewed optimism. His face immediately brightened with joy. Of course, feel free to test my sincerity. My heart belongs only to you. Jimei, let me walk you to the village entrance to catch your ride. Do come back early, or I'll miss you terribly. He carried my luggage and personally saw me onto the ox guard at the village entrance. As the cart jolted into motion, the young man stood waving at me, a smile played on his lips, as if anticipating my return before long. I gave him one last smile. Shin Jingqing, farewell forever in this lifetime. Ji Jimei had deceived him. She never returned. After an anxious wait, Shin Jingqing learned of her whereabouts from the village chief. He stood there dumbstruck, as if someone had punched him in the gut. Completely frozen in shock. Ji Jimei, how could you be so cruel? We promised to start over. How could you just walk away and abandon him like this? He knew he'd hurt her countless times, but why wouldn't she give him even one chance to make things right? Shin Jingqing refused to give up. He resolved to prove himself after returning to the city, then beg for Ji Jimei's forgiveness once more. But fate had other plans. Shortly after Xia Wenhua and Gu Qianru got married, an anonymous tip brought them down, plunging the entire family into ruin. Every dirty deed they'd committed was exposed in broad daylight. Only then did Shin Jingqing realize how many underhanded schemes Gu Qianru had orchestrated behind his back to discard him and climb the social ladder. How pitiful that in his past life, he'd foolishly clung to nostalgia, betraying his own wife to shield that woman his entire lifetime. He's the biggest joke of all time. Later, Xia Wenhua somehow learned that the report against his family was Shin Jingqing's revenge for stealing his wife. Having nothing left to lose, he gathered a group and crippled Shin Jingqing in retaliation. The permanent disability ensured he'd never achieve his past life accomplishments. Years later, a destitute Shin Jingqing saw Ji Jimei being honored in the news, after moving northwest for development work. She persisted in her studies, from college to PhD, and transformed the barren land into an oasis with her team, painting the desert with new life. Her remarkable contributions earned national recognition. She truly reinvented herself, while he spiraled into irreversible ruin. 7. His gaze swept across the cramped rental apartment. This broken body would now drag itself toward death in some forgotten corner, ensuring their eternal separation. Perhaps this was divine retribution for his sins. His rebirth wasn't meant to right past wrongs, but to witness how the wife he'd wronged in their previous life would break free from despair and start anew, to finally live the life that should have been hers all along. Story 2. While tidying the room, I stumbled upon the phone Shen Wangjin had locked away for 10 years. When I unlocked it, the wallpaper turned out to be my sister, the heartfelt confession and the notes that moved me to tears. The woman's name was also my sister. Suddenly, I understood why the flowers that day had wilted, because it's second-hand. The moment I scrolled to the end of the memo, everything went black as I was transported back to my 18th year. Shen Wangjin in his blue and white school uniform was plotting a confession with his buddies when he casually remarked, "No big deal if I fail, there's always Bai Shuiwei as backup." Later, he came to me holding wilted flowers. After his confession, I took a step back and humiliated him publicly. "You. Not even a dog would date you." 1. I found Shen Wangjin's decade-old phone in the storage room. He forgot the password and got locked out for 80,000 hours after multiple failed attempts. It contained countless precious moments from our relationship, so I went out of my way to buy a whiteport charger. By the time we finished cleaning, the phone had fully charged. The screen shows I can try the password again in 4 hours. I just lay down scrolling through my phone for a while. 4 hours later, I opened that old phone and instinctively typed in my birth date. After this phone got locked, Shen Wangjin set all passwords to the same combination, my birthday, the same day he confessed his love to me when I turned 18. By the time I realized what was happening, it was too late. I'd already entered all 6 digits. Just as I thought my phone would lock again, leaving me frantic with frustration, it unlocked. Password correct. The first thing that caught my eye was a photo of my sister. My screensaver, it's her. I bolted upright in bed. There's an unsettling sense of absurdity. The password, it actually worked. So he didn't forget the password. He locked the phone on purpose. I remember this phone held our intimate photos and sweet conversations. But right now, there's nothing left of me. The album is filled with my sister, her back view, her profile, when she went to dance practice, when she headed to the cafeteria, a chaotic mess of messages. Shen Wangjin's chat history with my sister was disturbingly intimate and flirtatious. The timestamps showed Shen Wangjin was with me during those exchanges. They discussed me shamelessly, lacing their conversation with suggestive remarks. In the end, my sister said she'd met someone and deleted Shen Wangjin. The chat window flooded with paragraphs of green text. Every word dripped with profound affection. The date matched exactly when Shen Wangjin's phone got locked for 80,000 hours. So it was because my sister had someone else she liked, deleted him, and that's why he locked his phone himself. It suddenly occurred to me that my sister got divorced yesterday. That same night, Shen Wangjin came home wasted and threw up everywhere. That's why I was cleaning today and found this phone in the storage room. So Shen Wangjin has always been in love with my sister, from high school until now. Then what am I to him? My chest tightened painfully. Breath came in ragged gasps as my whole body trembled. I absent-mindedly opened my phone's memo app. Pinned at the top was a draft love confession. My hands trembled as I tapped to open it. Every single word matched exactly what Shen Wangjin had said when confessing to me. Oh no, there's something different. The name he confessed to in the memo, it's Bai Shuqi, and I am Bai Shuiwei. It suddenly occurred to me that when Shen Wangjin confessed to me, the flowers were already wilted. Turns out it was second-hand. All these years have been nothing but an elaborate lie. I suddenly found it hard to breathe. Then everything went black as I passed out. 2. When I came to, I realized I'd been transported back to that early winter when I was 17. Withered leaves rustled underfoot while classroom recitations echoed through the air. I rushed to the restroom to splash cold water on my face, trying to clear my head. In my rush, I didn't check the sign and accidentally walked into the men's restroom. Of all times, someone walked in right then. I had no choice but to hide in a stall, my heart pounding like a drum. Bro, you're really going to confess to the campus belle? She's got a ton of admirers. Then, I heard that all too familiar voice. TCH, who's confessing here, me or you? If I'm not chickening out, why should you? It was Shen Wangjin. His lazy drawl carried through, who cares if we fail? There's always Bai Shuiwei as backup anyway. His brother burst into laughter immediately. That's so you, if you can't date the campus belle, her sister's an option too lol. But weirdly enough, Bai Shuiwei and the campus belle are twins yet polar opposites, like some genetic mutation happened. Shen Wangjin scoffed. How could some country mutt compare to a city swan? Having her fancy me is rather bothersome, but she's obedient, handy to have around. He bragged with particular smugness. Homework, cafeteria lines, buying drinks. Child's play. What I love most is teasing her on purpose. Just an extra glance or two, a few more words, and she blushes and stammers. Absolutely priceless. Shen Wangjin burst into laughter, dripping with smugness. It grated on my ears like nails on a chalkboard. My hand clenched into a tight fist by my side. Only when their voices faded into the distance did I emerge from the cubicle. Head down, I scurried back to the classroom. The bell rang right on time. Bai Shuchi walked in and sat beside me. Scooting her chair away like I had the plague, I couldn't help stealing a few glances at her. Bai Shuchi and I are truly worlds apart. My mother gave birth to twins back then, but she had limited energy and my father had financial constraints, so after discussing with the family, they decided to raise Bai Shuchi themselves while my grandparents took care of me. That's how I ended up being taken to the countryside by my grandparents after turning 1 month old. Meanwhile, Bai Shuchi stayed in the city. I grew up in the countryside on formula and rice cereal. Bai Shuchi was breastfed and had baby food in my mother's arms. At 3 or 4 years old, I played in the mud every day until I was sunburned dark. By age 3 or 4, Bai Shuchi already had an extravagant collection of princess dresses, always pristine and delicate. The stark contrast, compounded by favoritism, left me stranded in the countryside indefinitely. My mother never cared for me. Even my grandmother would say, "Your mother abandoned you." It wasn't until high school, when facing the crucial milestone of college entrance exams, that my grandparents finally had to send me to the city. When I first arrived at the new home, I actually liked it and didn't feel inferior at all. But over the years, I inevitably picked up my grandmother's shrewdness and frugality. This really annoyed my mother. She kept belittling me, putting me down, and constantly comparing me to Bai Shuchi. Bai Shuchi loved dancing. So our parents scrimped and saved to enroll her in dance classes. She made them proud by winning several competitions. She carried herself with the grace of a swan, while I was just an awkward duckling who didn't belong on stage. In just 1 year, my parents' constant criticism and being constantly compared to Bai Shuchi made me insecure and overly sensitive. Then fate played its cruel joke. Bai Shuchi and I got assigned to the same class after the sophomore year stream selection. Naturally, we ended up as desk mates. From that moment on, my world lost all its color. I was too naive back then, always getting trapped in my own thoughts. But now, I'm Bai Shuiwei from over a decade later. The fault was never mine, never was. 3. Bai Shuchi noticed me staring and shot me a haughty glance. "What do you want?" I asked her. "Do you know Shen Wangjin has a crush on you?" Tossing her chin, Bai Shuchi replied, "So many people like me. Why should that surprise anyone?" So she knew. Shen Wangjin was somewhat of a minor celebrity at school. There are 2 types of people everyone knows in school. The first are the academic superstars, the second are the notorious troublemakers. Shen Wangjin was the latter. Back when I had a crush on Shen Wangjin, I'd secretly scribble his name in my notebook. Bai Shuchi caught me doing it. She even asked me how I could possibly like a troublemaker like Shen Wangjin. Of course I never told her the reason, but she knew I had feelings for Shen Wangjin. Yet when Shen Wangjin got rejected by her and started dating me instead, she didn't say a word, not even a heads up. Even after we got together, she kept flirting with Shen Wangjin. What was going through her mind at that moment? Enjoying the show, secretly pleased, taking malicious delight. I let out a slow breath, suppressing the urge to confront her. Bai Shuchi suddenly remembered something and said in a condescending tone, "Oh, I forgot, you had a crush on him." Her voice carried. Drawing sideways glances from nearby classmates, I replied calmly, "You're mistaken. There's no one I like. Senior year is crazy busy. Who's got time for dating? We're not like you art students. We'd rather grind through extra problems than waste time like that." Bai Shuchi snapped. "What exactly do you mean by that, Bai Shuiwei?" I glanced out the window. "Teacher's coming." Bai Shuchi had no choice but to swallow her words, shooting me a furious glare. Class would end right at noon, as usual. Shen Wangjin would come to our classroom, making me queue for his lunch while he chatted up Bai Shuchi with small gifts. Right on cue, Shen Wangjin was already leaning against our classroom doorframe when the bell rang. After the teacher left, he strolled in with one hand in his pocket, moving with lazy grace. He rapped his knuckles twice on my desk. Knock knock, wearing a half smirk. By Shuiwei, the canteen just added a new dish. Word is, it's amazing. Translation, he wanted me to grab him a meal. The cafeteria food runs out fast. By the time I get there, it's just soup left with no meat dishes. Shen Wangjin and I have completely different tastes. After queuing to get his food, my favorite dishes are always gone. I even had to deliver his meal before going back to eat myself, then wash his dishes afterward. Looking back, I must have been out of my mind, fell head over heels for him over such a trivial matter. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I didn't even spare Shen Wangjin a glance. His composure was slipping, but he held back because Bai Shuqi was present. Surprisingly, Bai Shuqi spoke up first. Bai Shuiwei, grab me a meal to the dorm. I need to talk with Shen Wangjin now. Bossy and condescending, their gaze held a clear challenge. She's using Shen Wangjin to make me jealous. I stood up with a hollow smile. Not happening. With that, I walked right past her and headed to the cafeteria. Just then, Shen Wangjin called out to me in a lecturing tone. Bai Shuiwei, as a younger sister, you should listen to your elder sister. I couldn't help rolling my eyes. Seriously, you all want me to bring back food? I glared at Shen Wangjin. Do I look like your mom? Then turned to Bai Shuqi. Or yours. Someone else in the classroom burst out laughing. Their faces instantly darkened. I walked away without a trace, leaving nothing behind. For Shen Wangjin still wouldn't give up, while I was in the cafeteria. His lackey came with a message. Brother Wang says he's waiting for you in the classroom. Don't keep him waiting too long. There was a hint of threat in his tone. I completely ignored him. Who does Shen Wangjin think he is? After enjoying some delicious braised pork and spare ribs, I grabbed an ice-cold drink and headed to the dorm for a satisfying nap. Senior year is intense with crushing pressure. Most students spend lunch breaks buried in textbooks or grinding through practice tests, constantly on edge. I used to be just like that. But today, I just feel like cutting loose. If Shen Wangjin wants to wait, let him wait. The moment I entered the dorm, I spotted Bai Shuqi there. She wasn't even my roommate. She gave me a once-over and demanded, "Where's my food?" It's sobering how many functionally impaired people pass for normal just because they can feed themselves. Bai Shuqi seemed to finally realize, "You didn't bring me food." She sprang up and yelled at me. "Bai Shuiwei, didn't you hear me asking you to bring food? What am I supposed to eat now? Are you doing this on purpose?" I shouted even louder. "I told you I wouldn't. Are you deaf or just stupid? What's wrong with you? Can't you understand plain words? At school, Bai Shuqi and I barely talked. Even when we were desk mates, she can be the campus belle. I'll just be my invisible self. When she occasionally asks for favors, I'd grudgingly do them despite my reluctance. Today she was clearly angry and trying to put me in my place, but never expected me to break character. Bai Shuqi froze for 2 seconds. "You've got some nerve. Daring to yell at me. You wanna bet I'll go tell mom and dad and have them teach you a lesson." I shrugged indifferently. "Go ahead, crybaby, you." Bai Shuqi pointed at me, speechless for a long moment. "You'll pay for this." She shot me a furious glare and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I can already picture how she'll twist the story when she goes home this weekend. Mom and dad will undoubtedly take her side and punish me. But I'm no longer that Bai Shuiwei who desperately craved my parents' approval. I won't take this lying down. 5. On Friday when I got home, Bai Shuqi dramatically exaggerated to our parents about me forgetting to bring her food. The moment I stepped through the door, the TV remote came flying at me and smacked right into my forehead. Ah, the sharp pain made me cry out. My mother pointed at me, yelling, "You ungrateful brat, how heartless can you be? Was it too much to ask to bring your sister some food? She's your own sister, how could you let her starve all afternoon? I see right through you, you're just jealous your sister can dance. You deliberately starved her, trying to make her sick, so young yet so vicious. We never should have taken you in, you're nothing but a heartless monster." My father's face darkened. "Being raised away from us has spoiled your temperament. Starting today, your weekly allowance is cut in half. It'll be restored when you've learned your lesson. Now, apologize to your sister." Bai Shuqi watched me smugly, waiting for me to bow my head in apology. I lowered my hand from my forehead. "I won't apologize. Go ahead and kill me if you want." The moment I finished speaking, my mother rushed over and slapped me across the face. She put her whole body into that swing. The impact sent me crashing into the nearby shoe cabinet, but I stubbornly refused to shed a single tear. I saw this coming long before returning home. The harsher they are now, the more chaotic this house will become later. With my mom still yelling at me, I dashed straight to my bedroom and locked the door. Pulling out the phone hidden under my pillow, I video called my grandma in tears. I cut ties with grandma just to please my mom. She wasn't perfect, But Grandma raised me with her own hands. I was always her favorite. When the video call connected, I immediately showed the slap mark on my face and the bruise on my forehead. Grandma, save me. Mom and Dad are trying to beat me to death, sobbing uncontrollably. I watched as Grandma on the video call immediately dropped what she was doing and rushed over with Grandpa in tow. Don't be scared, sweetheart. Grandma's coming to set things right. I'm still breathing. How dare they treat my granddaughter this way? 4 hours later, Grandma and Grandpa came pounding on our door, ready for battle. 6. By then it was already dark. My parents and Baishuchi were having dinner in the dining room, all cheerful and harmonious. As for me hiding in the bedroom, it was as if I didn't exist. My father went to open the door, but before he could utter a word, Grandpa slapped him across the face. I sent Sarya here to live comfortably, not for you people to mistreat her. How dare you hit such a little girl? You don't deserve to be parents. Grandma charged straight at my mother, clapped her hands together, then collapsed to the ground wailing, oh my poor Sarya, such a well-behaved child, and you've beaten her face swollen. I raised this child through thick and thin, treasured her like the apple of my eye, and this is how you treat her under your roof. We're from the same mother. How could any mom be this unfair? My mom fired back, and you're not biased, they're both your granddaughters. When have you ever treated Shuchi kindly? Grandma ignored her and kept wailing. Neighbors began opening their doors, peering out curiously, seeing this. My father quickly covered the slap mark on his face and rushed to close the door. The living room was in chaos for quite some time, Grandma wailing, Mom hurling insults, neither willing to back down. Grandpa and my dad were the first to calm down, each pulling their own wife aside to pacify them. Only then did the living room gradually quiet down. At that moment, I timidly opened the door and stepped out. Grandma, Grandpa. The moment Grandma saw me, she immediately pulled me into a heartbroken embrace. My dear you, why didn't you tell Grandma when you were wronged? That mother of yours must have threatened you to keep quiet, didn't she? Granny always knew she was no good. She bought that house but wouldn't let your grandpa and me move in, then turned you against me. It breaks my heart. My mother tried to argue back, but my father stopped her. Grandpa waved his hand dismissively. Xiaoya's college entrance exams are coming up. Do you even understand how crucial this is as parents? Here's what we'll do, your grandma and I are staying, otherwise you'll just take your frustrations out on Xiaoya again when we're gone. Since you don't treat her well, we'll take her back after the college entrance exams. My mother's voice turned shrill. You're planning to stay here? Grandma raised her voice even louder. Can't I live in my own son's house? Grandpa shot my father a meaningful look. My father could only nod in agreement. That night, Grandma slept in my room with me, stroking my face tenderly. She said, I know you don't like me. What you really want is your mother's approval, but I raised you myself, my dear. How could I ever bear to see you wronged? My nose tingled with emotion as I hugged Grandma. I love you. Grandma, in my past life, Mom always favored by Shuchi, indulging her every whim while constantly putting me down. For the longest time, I was overly sensitive, anxious, and plagued by insomnia. It took me years to finally accept the painful truth. My mother simply didn't love me. By the time I wanted to go back to Grandma, it was already too late. I'm sorry, Grandma, I shouldn't have cut contact with you. So what if she's difficult and flawed? Her loving me is enough. 7. The grandparents' arrival cast an eerie atmosphere over the household. My parents dote on Baishuchi while my grandparents fuss over me, as if they're competing to outdo each other. It's so bizarre it doesn't even feel like a real family. I don't understand why I ended up with such a strange family. When I returned to school on the weekend, Baishuchi must have been told not to speak to me. She didn't say a single word. I was quite content with the situation. Little did I expect Shen Wangjin to intercept me right before evening study session. In the dimly lit alley, he squarely blocked my path. His gaze rested upon me with palpable intensity. Baishuiwa, I don't tolerate disobedience. Go apologize to Shuchi this instant. It all became clear to me. Baishuchi had gone to complain to him. My eyes lit up with mischief. You like my sister, don't you? I could help you win her over. See, she even initiated conversation with you today. Shen Wangjin narrowed his eyes suspiciously. What are you getting at? I cut straight to the chase. My sister hates me. The more I annoy her, the more she'll want to get back at me. Once she knows I have feelings for you, she'll come after you. And then, I deliberately paused for effect. Shen Wangjin pressed. And then what? Then you pretend to like me back. She'll move heaven and earth to win you over. Shen Wangjin was tempted, but hesitated when he saw me. I knew he looked down on me. My sister's the campus belle. Plenty of guys like her, but the one she chases after. Deal. Shen Wangjin agreed without hesitation. A smirk curled at the corner of my lips. Let the fun games begin. 8. Weekend evening study sessions were loosely supervised, allowing Shen Wangjin to waltz right into our classroom. Day students weren't required for evening study, leaving empty seats where Bai Shuqi sat deliberately far from me. Shen Wangjin took the empty seat right behind me. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught Bai Shuqi's startled look. Suddenly, Shen Wangjin poked my back with his pen. When I turned around, he handed me a note with a playful grin. It's blank. He just wanted to get Bai Shuqi's attention with this. Playing along, I pretended to write a reply before passing it to him. Bai Shuqi was visibly furious, storming over to sit down and immediately reaching to snatch the note. I swiftly tucked the note into my pocket and buried myself in homework. Pretending not to see her, behind us, Shen Wangjin let out a flirtatious whistle at Bai Shuqi. Bai Shuqi flushed with equal parts anger and embarrassment. When evening study ended, I deliberately took my time packing up, waiting for them to leave first, then quietly followed behind. On the way back to the dorm, Bai Shuqi blocked Shen Wangjin's path and confronted him angrily. What were you two passing notes about? Didn't you promise you'd make Bai Shuqi apologize to me? Shen Wangjin crossed his arms. Sorry about that, but I suddenly think Bai Shuqi is kinda cute. She's always had a thing for me and listens to everything I say, so I thought I'd give it a shot with her. Bai Shuqi's voice turned shrill. You like her? Shen Wangjin nodded. Kind of. Bai Shuqi stared at him in disbelief. But I thought you liked me. Shen Wangjin raised an eyebrow. Did I ever say that? The room fell into sudden silence. I was thoroughly enjoying the drama from the back. Finally, Bai Shuqi gritted his teeth and said, You can't like Bai Shuqi. Why not? Shen Wangjin feigned confusion. Because I love you. Dump Bai Shuqi and be with me. I didn't even need to look to know Shen Wangjin was thrilled. He feigned hesitation. Bai Shuqi did so much to pursue me. I'm genuinely touched. But you? Bai Shuqi was completely led along. Fine, I'll chase you too. Just you wait. Shen Wangjin's smile never faded even after Bai Shuqi had left. It was obvious he was absolutely thrilled. Let's hope he stays this happy later on. 9. The very next day, Bai Shuqi started making overtures to Shen Wangjin. Without any prompting from me, Shen Wangjin was already playing hard to get. Every time Bai Shuqi showed affection, he'd pretend to be intimate with me while stringing her along. When Bai Shuqi got angry, he'd immediately go sweet-talk her. This scene was just like their chat history back then. While they were fooling around, I buried myself in practice problems. In my past life, I graduated from teacher's college and became a high school teacher. These concepts were child's play to me. But just to be safe, I'd better grind through more practice questions. This time, I don't want to settle for just being a high school teacher. Soon, rumors spread across campus about the school beauty chasing after Shen Wangjin, a rare PE class under even rarer sunshine. I was reading on the lawn, basking in the sunlight with my back to the light. Just then, someone sat down behind us and started chatting away. Told you brother Wang's got mad charm. Even the campus queen's throwing herself at him now. Campus queen my foot. She's just some dancer who won a few awards. Not even close to brother Wang's league. Shen Wangjin couldn't hide his smug tone. Alright. Go easy. Girls have delicate egos. You know. Shuqi's been chasing me for quite a while now. It's not right to keep stringing her along. A man should be the one to confess his feelings. Meanwhile, the homeroom teacher had caught wind of the situation and summoned Bai Shuqi to the office. Bai Shuqi, even though you're taking the arts track for college entrance, your academic scores still matter greatly. Do you understand? Facing the teacher's stern expression, Bai Shuqi's face instantly turned pale. I understand, teacher. The homeroom teacher didn't spell it out directly. After emphasizing the importance of the college entrance exams, she let Bai Shuqi leave. By the time I returned from the playground, I'd already heard Shen Wangjin bragging with his buddies. The moment Bai Shuqi stepped out, I pulled her aside. The moment she recognized me, she jerked her hand away in disgust. Bai Shuqi, was it you who snitched? Don't think just because grandma and grandpa are here, you're untouchable. That's my parents' house. We can kick them out anytime. And that goes for you too. Me, when my parents bought that house, they fell short on funds and had to borrow a significant amount from my grandparents. Around that same time, after hearing Bai Shuqi attended dance classes, my grandparents insisted on enrolling me in an extracurricular program I'd enjoy too. They believed whatever Bai Shuqi had, I should have as well, even though the countryside location made commuting to classes inconvenient. But because they bought this house, they couldn't afford to sign me up for extracurricular classes anymore. The property deed is under mom and dad's names, but half the payment came from grandpa and grandma, so legally, mom and dad have no right to kick out grandpa, grandma, or me, unless they want to face public shaming. I brought you here to tell you, we've all been scammed by Shen Wangjin. Bai Shuqi froze for a moment. What do you mean? Shen Wangjin told me he likes you, but gave me the chance to pursue him. Then he told you he likes me and encouraged you to chase him. He's playing both sides, trying to keep two relationships going at once. Bai Shuqi always prided himself on his integrity. Being deceived and toyed with was absolutely unacceptable to him. The pity is she's too foolish to realize her own stupidity. I just heard, he's going to confess to you in a couple days. With that, I turned and walked away. No advice was needed. Bai Shuqi had a knack for hitting where it hurt most. Back when I first came to the city, I couldn't hold my head up in front of her. I couldn't understand why she treated me with such malice, though we share the same blood. Eventually I realized, since our parents disliked me, she simply followed their lead, but now, it doesn't matter anymore. Because I don't like them anymore either. 10. Soon, time reached that pivotal moment in my memory. My birthday. It was also Bai Shuqi's birthday. The wind was fierce that day, and the teachers were away at a meeting. Shen Wangjin prepared flowers, balloons, and gifts, waiting beneath the girls' dormitory to confess his feelings to Bai Shuqi. He sent someone to call Bai Shuqi downstairs. Bai Shuqi spotted Shen Wangjin from her dorm balcony but hesitated to come down. She sent a messenger saying, "Shuqi's upset. She says last time when you were called to the office, she was left alone to face it. She thinks you lack responsibility. Could you let her know I wasn't aware she'd been called to the office? I was just." Shen Wangjin's words trailed off as the person turned and walked away. To prove his accountability, he stood downstairs for a full hour. A crowd had gathered to watch the scene. Shen Wangjin shouted Bai Shuqi's name like a romance novel protagonist, declaring the confession he'd drafted in his notes. Classmate Bai Shuqi. I was smitten from the very first glance. Yet deepest affection breeds timidity, hidden in the crowd. I listened as he finished pouring out this soul-stirring confession. The onlooking students spontaneously applauded, cheered, and urged Bai Shuqi to come down immediately. At last, Bai Shuqi descended with deliberate grace, her expression dripping with arrogance. "Shen Wangjin, you really overestimate yourself. I was just humoring you for fun. How could you take it seriously, someone like you? I wouldn't take you even if you were free. Terrible grades, worse character. No wonder your parents divorced and abandoned you. If I had a son like you, I'd rather be dead." That last sentence struck Shen Wangjin like a knife to the heart. The crowd fell deathly silent. Shen Wangjin's face froze, his expression turning terrifying. "Bai Shuqi, say that again." Bai Shuqi sneered. "I said, your parents are divorced. You're just a parentless little." Before Bai Shuqi could finish, Shen Wangjin flung the bouquet in her face in fury. "Bai Shuqi," he lunged forward in rage, only to be restrained by others. "Calm down, just calm down." Shen Wangjin absolutely detests any mention of his parents. Right now, he looked ready to tear Bai Shuqi limb from limb. It suddenly dawned on me that he might not be that into Bai Shuqi after all. Maybe the unattainable always seems more desirable. In the end, Shen Wangjin was dragged away against his will, startled. Bai Shuqi hurried back to the dormitory. Only that slightly wilted bouquet remained on the ground, identical to the one he gave me in our past life. 11. In our previous life, Shen Wangjin came to confess to me in the afternoon, but this afternoon, he never showed up. Instead, he got publicly reprimanded for his terrible influence. I figure Shen Wangjin probably won't come looking for me. What a shame. I was looking forward to kicking him while he was down. Today's my and Bai Shuqi's birthday. We got permission to skip evening study and celebrate at home. This time was different. The table held not just Bai Shuqi's favorite strawberry cake, but also my beloved mango cake. Because Bai Shuqi is allergic to mangoes, which cause blisters around their lips, our household had always banned them. Even though I adore mangoes, even though Bai Shuqi has grown up and learned self-control, the ban remained unshaken. In front of the mango cake stood Grandma and Grandpa. Their faces crinkled with joyful smiles. Mom looked displeased but kept silent. Her face only lit up when she spotted Shuqi. "Come here, Shuqi. After today, our Shuqi will officially be an adult. We couldn't get time off work on such short notice, so we'll have to postpone your coming-of-age ceremony for now. After your college entrance exams, we'll definitely throw you a proper celebration to make up for it." Bai Shuqi nestled cozily between her parents, hugging them playfully. "Thanks, Mom and Dad." Seeing this, Grandma came over and held my hand. "We'll throw you a coming-of-age party too, at the grandest hotel in town." I smiled at Grandma and said, "Yes, thank you, Grandma." 1 dining table, 2 cakes, and 6 people. We were supposed to be the closest family, yet we split into factions, each holding our ground. When it came time to make a wish, I hesitated to blow out the candles. Grandma cautiously asked what was wrong. My gaze shifted between my parents across the table and Bai Shuqi. One last time, I voiced the question burning in my heart. "Mom, Dad, sis, why do you all hate me so much? Since it's my birthday today, could you please tell me? These were the words I never dared to ask in my past life. It's something I've always known, but wanted to hear them say it to my face. My mother snorted first, but just as she was about to say something nasty, my father cleared his throat to stop her. Xiaoya. We've never disliked you. It's just that you weren't with us when you were little. From now on, we'll do our best to make it up to you. My mother pursed her lips. You've always been such an easy child to raise, never giving us trouble, not like your sister, always fussy and crying. Naturally, I ended up paying more attention to her. Now that you're grown up, try to get along with your sister peacefully. Whatever she has, you'll have too. Bai Shuqi spoke with brutal honesty. I always thought I was their only daughter. How was I supposed to know we're twins? Suddenly there's a sister popping up to steal mom and dad's affection. Who could handle that? I watched them with a bitter smile. They're avoiding the issue, or rather, running away from that fateful mistake. I closed my eyes and made my wish. My wish is to never see father, mother, or sister ever again. I opened my eyes and blew out the candle. Their faces instantly darkened upon hearing this. Bai Shuiwe, what's your problem? Have we been too lenient with you lately? If it weren't for your grandmother stopping me, do you think I wouldn't have kept you by my side? If you want to blame someone, blame your grandmother. This has nothing to do with me. My father also scolded me. I held back because you're still young, but how could you make such a cruel wish? I deeply regret not teaching you properly when you were a child. Bai Shuqi pressed her lips together and remained silent. My grandmother tried to speak up for me, but I stopped her. I looked at them and said, wishing your family of three nothing but harmony and happiness. If the original decision was wrong, then let's keep being wrong. The deep-seated prejudices in human nature are unchangeable. Since we had classes the next day, Bai Shuqi and I had to return to school after the birthday celebration. On our way back, Grandma kept hesitating to speak her mind. Just as I reached the school gate, she called out to me with clouded eyes. Xiaoya, it was my mistake to insist on keeping you with me all those years. A child shouldn't grow up without their parents. I went back and hugged her, my voice choking with emotion. Having grandparents is enough, in my past life. I also thought I couldn't live without parents, but in the end, the more you crave something, the less likely you are to have it. Rather than stubbornly chasing what isn't meant to be, it's better to let go, even if Grandma made countless mistakes back then. But in my eyes, she loved me enough. To me, being loved is enough. 12. After returning to school, Bai Shuqi and I became practically strangers. With her preparing for the joint entrance exams and buried in practice, she had even less time for me. I kept my head down studying, never expecting Shen Wangjin to reappear, and he brought a beautifully fresh bouquet of flowers. It's only been a week since his failed confession to Bai Shuqi. At first, people just treated him as gossip material after meals, but everyone was too busy with studying and cramming, so they stopped mentioning it within days. The old Shen Wangjin would have already exploded and taught every single mockers a lesson, but this time, he actually held out for a whole week. How unusual. Shen Wangjin cornered me on the path behind the dormitory. This time he played it smart. No crowds around. He stopped me but remained silent, so I asked, what's the matter? The moment I spoke, Shen Wangjin's eyes reddened, as if on the verge of tears. I quickly took 2 steps back. There's something off about him. Shen Wangjin spoke slowly. Classmate Bai Shuiwe, after all these years together, I've fallen for you. Yet the deeper my feelings grow, the more cowardly I become. This confession was different, but it didn't matter. The perfect chance to kick someone when they're down has finally arrived, so I waited patiently for Shen Wangjin to finish speaking. When he looked at me with hopeful eyes, I responded coldly, you, not even a dog would date you. Shen Wangjin's eyes widened in shock, as if he hadn't expected this reaction from me. Perfect, that felt good. I turned to leave. To my surprise, Shen Wangjin called out, shoo shoo. The achingly familiar shoo shoo slipped from his lips, carrying indescribable tenderness. In that instant, I knew, Shen Wangjin and I shared the same secret. We'd been reborn. He only started calling me shoo shoo after we married. By chance, I ran into Bai Shuqi and her husband, and heard him call her shoo shoo. At the time, I didn't think much of it since we both share the character Shu in our names, but now I realize Shen Wangjin saw me as nothing more than Bai Shuqi's replacement. How utterly revolting. My expression turned icy. Shen Wangjin stopped me. Shoo shoo, let me explain. There's absolutely nothing between me and Bai Shuqi. We cut all ties after she blocked me, and before she blocked you, we started dating senior year of high school. He locked his phone sophomore year of college. So what about these past 2 years in between? Shen Wangjin said weakly. There's absolutely nothing between us. You have to believe me. It's you I love. Why else would I have married you? I scoffed. Then why the hell were you drowning your sorrows over her divorce? Shenwan Jin, stop lying to yourself, and spare me your disgusting act. Shenwan Jin persisted. Shushu, I know you're just angry. You loved me so much. How could you bear to leave me? See, my grades were mediocre, my family ordinary, yet you secretly pined for me for years. How could you not love me now? His sheer audacity made me laugh in exasperation. Do you know why I had a crush on you? He looked at me. Because, I mistook you for someone else. Back in freshman year when I first moved to the city, I got lost after taking the wrong bus. I didn't have a cell phone, couldn't remember my parents' numbers, and was completely out of change. I kept waiting at the terminal, hoping some kind-hearted driver would take me back. But the terminal was too remote, with buses coming only once an hour. The sky was growing darker. I started to panic, tears welling up from sheer distress. Just then, a masked teenager in a cap approached me, coughing as he spoke. Hey classmate, need some help? He was wearing the same school uniform as me. I felt like I'd found my lifeline, pouring out the whole story between sobs. Though hoarse from a cold, he still managed to comfort me. Then he hailed me a cab home and even paid the fare. With his hat and mask on, I couldn't make out what he looked like, but I remember that Stitch-themed wallet of his. Later, I saw Shenwan Jin using that wallet to pay. And his build and height matched too, so I thought it was him, and I kept watching him ever since. Gradually, I found myself falling for him. After getting together with Shenwan Jin, a casual conversation made me realize he wasn't the one I thought he was, but by then, I'd already grown fond of him, so I decided to go with the flow. Shenwan Jin listened in disbelief. A wallet, over a damn wallet. Those stores sell hundreds of those wallets daily, and you're hung up on one. I cut him off. It's not about the wallet, it's the person. What a pity. I never knew his name, nor what he looked like. Shenwan Jin, had I not mistaken you for him, I'd never have noticed you, let alone fallen for you. Shenwan Jin stared at me for a long moment before speaking. Are you implying this affection of yours was something I stole? I thought for a moment and shook my head. It doesn't count. Because you didn't know I mistook you for someone else, but this time, I won't fall for you again. You're not worth it. Not worth it at all. My love is timid yet fervent. His love is hypocritical and shameful. After I left, Shenwan Jin stood there alone for what felt like an eternity. In the end, he let out a bitter laugh, so hard that tears streamed down his face. 13. The college entrance exam is approaching fast. I performed pretty well and think I can make it into a top-tier university. During the art school entrance exams, Baishuchi carelessly had his USB drive damaged by other candidates, leading to disappointing results that forced him to return for the regular college entrance exam. But he's fallen too far behind in his studies to catch up easily. On the day the college entrance exams ended, she locked herself in her room. Meanwhile, I was preparing to return to the countryside with my grandparents. That's when my mother started trying to convince me to stay. Shuiwa, I was wrong before. I shouldn't have treated you that way. We're family, of course we should live together. My dad chimed in. That's exactly why we bought this 3-bedroom place, one for you and one for Shuchi. I found the whole thing rather ridiculous. By the time we finished cleaning, my phone had charged up. I'll say it again, may your family of 3 live in harmony and happiness. I turned and walked away with my grandparents. At first they tried to persuade me to go back. When they saw I wouldn't budge, they stopped trying. Just before the new semester started, I heard our parents wanted Baishuchi to repeat her senior year, but she chose to attend a vocational college instead. Our parents were deeply disappointed and even threatened to disown her if she didn't retake the exams. Baishuchi shot back. Like how you wanted to disown Baishui back then. They immediately fell silent. When heading to university registration, I shipped my luggage ahead to campus and traveled light. Little did I know everyone had the same idea. In the end, the entire path from the parcel station to the dorms was lined with suitcases, just as I was racking my brains to find mine. A gentle voice spoke behind me. Hey there, need a hand? The end. Story 2. I've been pursuing Shiryi for 10 years. Only if he marries me before turning 28 can I avoid being erased by the system. But on the wedding day, the female host mistakenly said, "Will you marry me?" instead of, "Will you marry her?" The audience burst into laughter, but Shirye's eyes turned red as he took the female host's hand and left the wedding. I do. Only then did I realize. Shiryi had always carried an unrequited love for his white moonlight. Now, she has returned. It's all over. Will you marry me? I do. The hall fell silent as Shiryi uttered these words with reddened eyes. He ignored me, turned around, and walked away from the wedding venue holding the hand of the female host in a white dress who bore a 70% resemblance to me. It was supposed to be my wedding, yet I stood by like a spectator. The despair in my eyes almost palpable. It's all over. The system's voice carried a hint of regret. She was Shurye's first love, who left him to study abroad 10 years ago. 1. Now she has returned. Your mission has failed. The wedding venue was filled with noise, the murmurs of guests, the MC's attempts to maintain order, the furious curses of friends, yet I felt a deathly silence. Everything was over, my mission failed, and I'm going to die too. I've been strategizing for Shurye for 10 years. Accompanied him from being a penniless young man to becoming the chairman of the nation's largest listed company. In hard times, I made him stomach-nourishing porridge late at night, picked up his drunk self after business dinners, and shared the same bowl of instant noodles with him. I once thought that companionship was the most enduring confession of love. I once believed I had truly entered Shurye's heart, but now it seems those 10 years were just a joke, after all. The white moonlight remains the white moonlight. She didn't need to do anything, just stand there and reach out her hand, and Shurye would follow her. I'm sorry, host. The system's voice also carried a trace of inexplicable melancholy. The time you can remain in this world is only 3 more days. I took several deep breaths, my chest feeling as heavy as if 2 large stones were pressing down on it. My friend held my hand, gently stroking my back, comforting me not to worry. Ran, it's okay. That scumbag isn't worth your... I shook my head and asked all the guests to leave. After rejecting the comfort of family and friends, I left the wedding venue alone, waiting in my spotless white wedding dress to hail a taxi on the road. In the taxi driver's shocked expression, I fought back tears. Driver, take me to Pigeon Beach. Pigeon Beach was where I met Shurye and also where I accompanied him in starting his business. There stands a shabby little rental house. The place that holds all my beautiful memories. I only have 3 days left. I want to die there. Yes, perhaps seeing me leave the church in a pure white wedding dress. The driver remained silent for a long time. When the car stopped at Pigeon Beach, I picked up my phone to pay, but the driver waved his hand and refused. No need, young lady, take it easy. As long as you're alive, there's no obstacle you can't overcome. When Shurye left with his white moonlight, I didn't cry. Amidst the complex gazes of the full hall of guests, I didn't cry, yet the driver's sudden, out-of-nowhere words of comfort unexpectedly shattered my defenses. After the driver left, I crouched on the ground crying, my heart aching with each throbbing pulse. Yes, there's no hurdle that can't be overcome, but, I'm dying. After walking for a long time on the muddy path of Pigeon Beach, I finally found that familiar shabby little building, a 2-story concrete building, room 203. That was the place where Shurye and I spent our toughest 3 years, silently dragging my wedding dress already stained with mud. I slowly turned the key several times in the rusty iron door of room 203, perhaps due to years of neglect. The iron door was extremely dilapidated, emitting a harsh creak sound when opened. The door next door opened. A permed auntie stuck her head out and scrutinized me curiously for a long while. She suddenly asked me excitedly, Ran. I forced a smile and nodded with difficulty. The aunt immediately rushed out wearing an apron, grabbed my hand, and said warmly with a smile, do you still remember me? I'm Auntie Lou. When you still lived here, I was your next door neighbor. Of course I remember. Back then, Shurye and I always came home late from work. Whenever we were too tired to cook, Auntie Lou would drag us to her place for meals, hands on her hips. Aunt Lou was very warm-hearted, pulling me aside to chat about past events. What about that young man? You two should be married by now, right? As Aunt Lou kept talking, she finally noticed my pale complexion, reddened eyes, and the mud-stained white wedding dress. She stood there dumbfounded for a long while before slowly patting my back. It's all right, girl, there are plenty of good young men in this world. Just stay here peacefully. I'll introduce you to someone better than him. I barely held back the tears welling up in my eyes, said goodbye to Aunt Lou, and entered that tiny rented room, a place filled with memories of me and Shurye. The room was very small, a double bed, a dust-covered table, and a half-human-sized panda plush toy. These were all that Shurye gave me. Sitting on the bed, I gently stroked the panda plush as tears streamed down my face. Don't cry, Ran, Ye was wrong, Ran, don't cry. Ye was wrong. The shabby doll clumsily flickered with light, emitting a mechanical voice. This was my first birthday spent together with Shurye. I cooked noodles at home, waiting joyfully for Shurye to return, but he didn't come back all night. The next afternoon, when Shurye returned, his eyes were red, covered in dust, and he looked utterly exhausted. Perhaps to make it up to me, he gave me this panda plush toy. I was very happy at that time. The panda Shurye gave me. I really like it, but later I found out, Shurye's white moonlight is called by Ranxiong. The panda was referring to Ranan by Ranxiong, too, rather than the Ran in Gu Ranran's name. That day wasn't just my birthday, it was also the birthday of Shurye's white moonlight. That night, he carried the panda plush all night, trying to airmail it abroad to his white moonlight, but because the plush contained lithium batteries, it couldn't be shipped by air, so Shiryi still didn't succeed. He brought the panda back and threw it to me like trash, the poor panda, treated like garbage. Just like my love, that night, I lay on the small bed where I once slept with Shiryi, tossing and turning, unable to fall asleep for a long time. 7 years had passed, yet the bed still carried a faint scent of lemon, Shiryi's distinctive fragrance. Once, I was utterly infatuated with this scent, but now, it only makes me feel nauseous. My chat history with Shiryi still stops at last night. Darling, we're getting married tomorrow. I'm so nervous, what if I can't sleep? Don't worry, darling, after we're married, you'll manage all the money, and I'll take care of sweeping the floors. Last night, Shiryi was still nervous about our wedding. Today, he chose to abandon me at the wedding, walking away hand in hand with someone else. What's more, Shiryi didn't even glance at me when he left, but thinking about it, it makes sense. He only saw me as a substitute for Shizuka by Ranxiang, now that the real one has returned. A mere substitute like me can naturally be discarded at will. Right now, Shiryi is probably enjoying a romantic moment under the moonlight with his beloved white moonlight, lost in mutual affection. I thought miserably, yet my eyes remained fixed on the chat box. Through tear-blurred vision, I suddenly saw several lines of text pop up in the chat box. Gu Ranran, where have you gone? Is it just because I didn't marry you? So you're going to disappear and play the suicide card, is that it? Don't you get it yet? I don't love you at all. I've transferred 3 million to your account. Take the money and get lost. If you want to die, then go die. A sharp, stabbing pain pierced through the heart. Shiryi's tone was as stiff as when we first met. Couldn't even bring themselves to say a simple I'm sorry. 3 million. I accompanied Shiryi in his entrepreneurial journey for 10 years, witnessing his rise from a penniless, down-and-out youth to a renowned young entrepreneur in the city. The money we earned during that time was far more than just 3 million, and yet, would someone who truly loved ever care about money, then just go die? These dark clouds seemed to loom over my heart, impossible to dispel. But Shiryi, I'm really about to die. Tears welled up uncontrollably again, but I struggled to hold them back. My hand hovered over the typing area of the chat box for a long time, only to realize I had nothing to say to him. In the end, my finger hovered over that red delete friend option. Goodbye, Shiryi, whom I've loved for 10 years. The night was already deep. The cold wind outside seeped through the loosely shut window frame, making me shiver uncontrollably. When Shiryi and I lived here 10 years ago, the windows were always loose, and the room temperature would drop shockingly low every night. Back then, Shiryi would always hold me tightly, pressing close to transfer his warmth to me. During those winter years, though bitterly cold, whenever I was outdoors, I felt as warm and bright as springtime. Now, lying alone in bed, I finally realize the bone-chilling cold. My heart throbs with pain as I lie aimlessly. Perhaps I'll just die like this. As my corpse stiffened and grew cold, Shiryi was embracing his white moonlight in a night of passion, whispering sweet nothings in her ear, just as he once did with me. The phone pressed against my ear suddenly emitted a sound. I opened my phone to see a new friend request flashing on the screen. It wasn't Shiryi. The friend request from the other party was a short line of text. I'm by Ranxiang, Shiryi's white moonlight, also the Ranran mentioned by the panda plushie, the woman who truly possessed Shiryi's heart. I clicked agree, then scrolled into her social feed. Honestly, I'm quite curious why. Why does this woman who somewhat resembles me get to hold Shiryi's entire heart without doing anything? Why did I give my all, only to end up with nothing, even at the cost of my life? What does the white moonlight have that I don't? The first post in the social feed is a 9-square grid of photos. In the frame, Shiryi smiles tenderly and affectionately, holding by Ranxiang tightly as if afraid of losing her again. Shiryi was still wearing the suit from our wedding, so that day, after abandoning me, he couldn't wait to take these affectionate photos while embracing his white moonlight. They looked so happy together, as if I had never existed in the first place. The caption beside the photo felt more like a sharp, poison-dipped dagger, brutally piercing my heart. In an instant, blood gushed forth. 10 years apart, you're still you, and I'm still me. P.S. We're getting married in 3 days. Getting married in 3 days. I suddenly felt like laughing. 3 days later would be the day my mission failed and I'd be erased by the system. It was also the day Shiryi married his first love. The system's voice suddenly rang out. Disgusting. You could tell there was a hint of resentment even in the system's voice. The system continued speaking. Gu Ranran, I can see that you've tried hard enough these past 10 years. I can give you a choice. Choose how you want to die. Choose how I die. I sighed. Since it's death either way, the manner of dying makes no difference to me. The phone kept ringing. It was a message from Shiryi by Ranxiong. She sent me an address. Our wedding is in 3 days. I hope you can come. Looking at those words, I suddenly had an idea. I'm sorry, sister, but Shiryi has always liked me. Even if he marries you, he won't be happy. A few more lines of text popped up in the chat box, accompanied by an image. It was a hand wearing a diamond ring. The diamond ring was beautiful, with 2 sculpted butterfly diamonds dancing on a silver band, interwoven in dreamlike hues of blue and red. A tear finally broke free from my eye, trailing down my cheek and landing on the picture of the diamond ring on my phone. This is the diamond ring Shiryi bought for me. Do you think it's pretty, sis? Back then, before my sister appeared, Shiryi promised me that he would buy this diamond ring for me in the future. By Ranxiong then sent a string of messages. I was at a loss for words, my mind in a daze, as if I had fallen into a gray fog where I couldn't see my own hand in front of me. That diamond ring, I still remember a week ago. Back then, sure Ranxiong hadn't appeared yet, and Shiryi hadn't abandoned me. At that time, I was extremely happy, looking forward to the wedding with Shiryi. I dragged him to every bridal shop in the city, trying on all the wedding rings. In the end, I chose a ring. The salesperson told us, this wedding ring is called Butterflies in Love with Flowers, inspired by the love story of Liang Shanbua and Zhu Yingtai, symbolizing couples flying together and lasting forever. I pestered Shiryi to buy this diamond ring, but Shiryi coldly refused with a stern face. He didn't give me any reason, just frowned and pulled me out, then casually chose another wedding ring with a heavier diamond weight. At that time, I didn't think much about it, only now do I realize. It turns out Shiryi didn't dislike butterfly love, he disliked me. 3. Perhaps he is Liang Shanbua, but I was never his Zhu Yingtai. By Ranxiong is the one. As for me, I am nothing. Perhaps just an insignificant extra. My fingers trembled as I stared at the message in the chat box. By Ranxiong sent another message. Sister, don't blame me either. Shiryi doesn't love you, so why bother? Forced affection isn't sweet. Perhaps I actually helped you, sister. She sent a screenshot of the chat. It was a chat history between Shiryi and her. In the chat box, Shiryi's voice messages were translated into Chinese characters, making my heart bleed as I read them. Beneath that familiar avatar were lines of hurtful words. Darling, you know, it's always been you in my heart. If it weren't for Gu Ranran looking like you, I wouldn't have been with her. During all those days with her, I was thinking of you every single day. These words were like the final straw that broke the camel's back, completely shattering my love. I never imagined that in Shiryi's eyes, I was always just a dispensable substitute. By Ranxiong finally sent a message. Sister, you'll come to our wedding in 3 days, right? How ridiculous. How I wish you could see Shiryi and me in our happiest moments with your own eyes. I nodded slowly and finally replied to her. I'll come. A plan began forming in my heart. Since the system has given me the chance to choose my own way to die, then I shall die at Shiryi's wedding. Let him witness my death at his happiest moment. More devastating than a white moonlight is a dead white moonlight. I want Shiryi to never escape the shadow I've cast over his life. I want to die at Shiryi's wedding. The cause of death: myocarditis caused by being drenched in rain all night 3 years ago. Lying on the bed, I murmured to the system. At night, a sudden pain shot through my chest, like having an iron shard stuck in the lungs. Each breath brings excruciating pain. This chronic illness of mine has been with me for a long time. That was 3 years ago. That night marked the 7th anniversary of Shiryi and me being together. I joyfully ordered Shiryi's favorite hot pot and carefully prepared gifts for him, but Shiryi never showed up. When I found him, he was completely drunk in a bar, covered in filthy vomit, mumbling syllables I couldn't understand. Only later did I learn, that night, Shiryi's first love got a new boyfriend abroad. After hearing the news, Shiryi got completely wasted, never imagining there was still a girl waiting desperately to celebrate their 7th anniversary with him. The rain was pouring heavily, with street water rising up to my calves. To prevent Shiryi from catching a cold in the rain, I draped my coat over him and carried him through the floodwaters, taking an entire night to finally make it home. Indeed, Shiryi didn't catch a cold that night, but I was the one who developed a fever. The high fever left me delirious, lying on the sofa weakly calling Shiryi's name. At that moment, I longed for him to come over, hold me, bring me warm water and cold medicine, and take me to the hospital. But when he woke up from his drunken stupor and saw me unconscious with a high fever, he merely furrowed his brows, hypocritically asked what was wrong, then hastily threw on his clothes and walked out the door. That day, I lay at home alone with a high fever for the entire day. Meanwhile, Shiryi bought a plane ticket abroad to go find his white moonlight. He didn't get to meet Bai Ranxiong. Back then, by Ranxiang had hooked up with a wealthy foreigner and was indulging in a life of luxury, completely forgetting about Shurya. It wasn't until evening that Shurya remembered to call and ask how I was doing. How was I doing? I had been drenched in rain all night, running a high fever that wouldn't break. My whole body weak and trembling. At that time, I even felt like I was about to die. I went to the hospital alone, I registered, saw the doctor, bought medicine by myself, and then slowly walked home alone. At the hospital, I met Su Wanbei, who was also left unattended. At that time, Su Wanbei was already a renowned entrepreneur in the city, achieving fame and success at a young age. Compared to Shuryi, who was just a small-time employee back then, Su Wanbei shone brilliantly with his excellence. He took me to see a doctor and get examined. That was also the day I was diagnosed with myocarditis. Su Wanbei sent me home. I lay on the sofa feeling utterly miserable, shivering from cold. When Shuryi finally returned with a worried expression, trembling in discomfort, I begged Shuryi to pour me a glass of water, but Shuryi merely glanced indifferently at my medical report before giving me a disdainful look. It's just a minor illness, stop being so dramatic. In the end, he still didn't pour me that glass of water. The system's voice rang in my ears. All right, we'll do it your way. 3 days later, you will die at Shurya's wedding. The cause of death is myocarditis caused by getting caught in the rain 3 years ago. I forced a smile, revealing an ugly grin. The first day has already passed. Only 2 days remain until the day I'm supposed to die. I want to make up for something. I picked up the phone and dialed that number. Su Wanbei's phone. Can you come find me? 4. The other end remained silent for a long time. I could hear heavy breathing, and mixed within it was Su Wanbei's uniquely hoarse voice. What's wrong? His voice was heavy yet gentle. Just like when we first met at the hospital, my tears couldn't be held back, breaking through my eyelids and sliding down my cheeks. Gradually, my crying grew louder and louder, from quiet sobs to loud, heart-wrenching wails. Su Wanbei never hung up, just softly repeating on the other end of the line, don't cry. Ever since Shuryi abandoned me and left with his white moonlight, I've been suppressing my emotions, but now, listening to Su Wanbei's heavy breathing on the other end of the phone, I let down my guard and cried my heart out. I don't even remember how long I cried, until finally, with a hoarse voice, I asked again. Su Wanbei, can you come find me? The other side was completely silent. After about 2 or 3 seconds, Su Wanbei hung up the phone. A heavy weight suddenly pressed down on my heart. Su Wanbei, do you not want to see me anymore either? I suddenly feel like a child abandoned by the world. However, this isn't Su Wanbei's fault. Back then, I chose Shurya over him between the two, resolutely abandoning him. It's only natural that he resents me and refuses to see me. The night grew deeper, and the cold crept up my back like clinging maggots. Suddenly, I felt a sharp pain in my heart. I got up and coughed violently several times, the agony as if I had coughed out my very heart. Cough, cough, cough. I looked at my palm, where a pool of blood I had just coughed up lay. It seems the death method the system promised me has already begun to take effect. I will die from myocarditis at Shurya's wedding. I pulled a tissue from the nightstand and wiped away the bloodstain on my palm. Accidentally pressed the panda plushie beside me. Don't cry Ran Ran, Ye was wrong. Don't cry Ran Ran, Ye was wrong. How ridiculous. In the end, the only thing that can accompany me is this panda plush toy. Shuryi doesn't want me anymore. Su Wanbei doesn't want to see me either. I'm so pitiful. I smiled self-deprecatingly, turned over, and tried hard to fall asleep. In the middle of the night, around 4 or 5 o'clock, the wooden door suddenly creaked, and a low, hoarse voice sounded outside. Gu Ran Ran, open the door. I know you're here. It was Su Wanbei's voice. A ray of sunlight suddenly emerged in the darkness, so, he was still willing to see me. I opened the door, and Su Wanbei's face was right before my eyes. He was wearing a black scarf, his head covered in white snow. The streetlight behind cast a pale yellow halo. Su Wanbei's nose was red from the cold, yet he seemed utterly unfazed as he pulled me into a tight embrace. Gu Ran Ran, I'm sorry, I'm late, not late at all. Feeling the warmth in Su Wanbei's embrace, my nose tingled with emotion. My salvation has arrived. At the very least, he redeemed what little remained of my final 2 days. Su Wanbei is my only friend, if you could even call it that. The first time I saw him was on that night when I fainted from high fever, while Shuryi went abroad to find his white moonlight, when I collapsed on the hospital floor from high fever. The passers-by avoided me as if I were the plague. My mind spun with dizziness, only able to hear the chaotic murmurs around me. What's going on? Why did she suddenly faint? Stay away from her. Don't get involved. How pitiful. Where are her family members? Her boyfriend? Did they just let her come to the hospital alone? Boyfriend? At that time, Shuryi was probably searching for her unattainable love overseas. I closed my eyes in despair, no longer wanting to hear the surrounding gossip. In a daze, I was lifted by a pair of gentle, large hands. It was Su Wanbei. Though it was our first meeting, I inexplicably felt a sense of familiarity radiating from this handsome man with thick, dark eyebrows. As I hazily opened my eyes, they met directly with Su Wanbei's gaze. He smiled beautifully and mumbled to me, "Your eyes are very beautiful, Gu Ranran." That was the first time I met Su Wanbei, yet he knew my name. What's more, the way Su Wanbei uttered my name felt incredibly familiar, as if he had said it countless times before. Later, I once asked him how he knew my name at that time, but Su Wanbei just looked at me with a faint smile, saying nothing, yet I could clearly see deep, lingering affection in his eyes. That night, Su Wanbei took me to register, receive treatment, get medicine, and then sent me home. I could sense his tension from his tightly clenched hands and protruding veins. At the doorstep, Su Wanbei suddenly asked me, "Where's your boyfriend?" I was at a loss for words. I shook my head. "Sure ye went to find his first love." Su Wanbei looked into my eyes and after a long pause said, "Actually, you could consider other people." I understand what he means, but my mission in this world is to conquer Shuri. If I fail, I'll die. I have no other choice. Thinking about it now, perhaps Su Wanbei would have been much more suitable for me. From that day on, Su Wanbei and I exchanged contact information. I knew he seemed to harbor deep feelings for me, but I couldn't respond to him. I could only treat him as a friend. Through Su Wanbei's connections, I helped Shuriya establish partnerships with many business contacts. It's fair to say that Su Wanbei played a pivotal role in Shuriya's transformation from a penniless young man to a billionaire entrepreneur. He helped me unreservedly like that, silently watching as I got together with Shuriya. The day before I decided to marry Shuriya, I once called Su Wanbei to invite him to our wedding. At that time, Su Wanbei remained silent for a long while. In the end, he only left these words, "Gu Ranran, your happiness is enough, and also, your eyes are very beautiful, you should smile, don't cry." After that, Su Wanbei left this place and chose to go abroad. I thought he had decided not to see me again, but when I called to meet him once more, he appeared before me again. If time could be rewound, I would choose to be with Su Wanbei. To hell with mission failures and system erasures. But fortunately, I still have 2 more days left. 5 waves of pain surged through my chest again, suppressing a cough. I smiled and tightly hugged Su Wanbei, who was covered in snow outside the door. "Su Wanbei, I really wanted to see you." Su Wanbei remained silent. He just held me tighter. I felt a sudden warmth against my neck. It was Su Wanbei's tears. Su Wanbei held me like that, letting me sob my heart out in his arms, smearing snot and tears all over his expensive coat. Only when I finally cried myself exhausted, my voice hoarse, did he gently ruffle my hair and whisper by my ear, "Ranran, come, I'll take you somewhere." Dazed, I let him carry me into the car, watching as it sped away from Pigeon Beach toward the nearby shoreline. The sea lies right beside Pigeon Beach, less than an hour's drive away. I love the sea deeply, the vast azure ocean and the boundless sky above it. During those years living in Pigeon Beach with Shuri, I told him countless times that I wanted to see the sea. It would have taken just a short hour, but he always brushed me off with various excuses. Shuri said he was busy with work, that he had social obligations, that it was just the sea and nothing special to see. I genuinely believed his nonsense at first, thinking he might just not like the sea, but when I saw Bai Ranxiang's social media post last night, I finally realized Shuri had actually made a promise with her all along, to see the ocean for the first time in their lives together. It wasn't that Shuri disliked the sea, he simply didn't like me. He just wanted to save that first experience for Bai Ranxiang. The seaside air is fresh, rushing into my lungs, invigorating my spirit immensely. Su Wanbei smiled as he tucked a blue butterfly flower into my hair, pointing at the sun just rising over the sea. "Ranran, look, every day brings a new sunrise, with fresh sunlight bathing this beach. So, it's just that the sunlight wasn't right for you. Perhaps you could try watching the dawn of the next day." His voice was low, as if hesitating about something. The man who once dominated the business world with maturity and steadiness now fidgeted awkwardly like a teenage boy. I suddenly raised my head and kissed his lips fiercely. "But Su Wanbei, I no longer have the chance to choose. I'm going to die." I sighed inwardly, feeling a tearing pain in my chest. I kissed Su Wanbei's lips frantically, even biting his tongue until it bled. If possible, I'd like to sit here quietly with Su Wanbei, watching the sea until the end of time, but I can't. I'm out of time. As the sun set and night fell, Su Wanbei drove me back to the room at Pigeon Beach. He didn't leave that night. I was the one who made him stay. He hugged me tightly like a big fluffy dog, sleeping soundly. The moon hung high above the wall, frost covering the branches. My heart ached with throbbing pain. The system's voice chimed in at just the right moment. Host, tomorrow is Shurye's wedding. If you want to die at his wedding, then it's time to go. I sighed, clutching my throbbing chest. Suwanya was still holding me tightly. He mumbled something indistinctly under his breath. Ran, don't go, don't leave, I smiled, a somewhat relieved smile. At least someone in this world still cares about me, but I must go. I don't want to die in Suwanbei's arms, letting him watch as my body slowly turns cold. I hope in his eyes, I'll always be the most beautiful. In a vast expanse of white snow, I left Pigeon Beach. When I arrived at Shurye and Bai Ranxiang's wedding holding a bouquet of white butterfly flowers, the ceremony had already begun. Shurye in a black suit stood beside Bai Ranxiang in a white dress, a perfect match between talented groom and beautiful bride. The two of them looked truly perfect together, but originally, the one who should have been standing at the altar marrying Shurye was me. Now, I feel like an uninvited intruder, surrounded by awkwardness and all sorts of strange glances. A sharp pain shoots through my chest. It's the precursor to another myocarditis attack. I couldn't hold back anymore. Covering my mouth as I coughed violently several times, blood was coughed up into my hand, blooming into one crimson flower after another. On stage, Shurye and Bai Ranxiang smiled with tender happiness, but the atmosphere was abruptly shattered by my sudden coughing. Only then did they notice the figure in the audience, me, also wearing a white wedding dress, but now filthy and stained with mud. Shurye's eyes were clouded with a thick layer of gloom, his thin lips pressed into a straight line. His face frozen in a frosty expression as he gazed at me indifferently, looking at my pale face, which stood in stark contrast to Bai Ranxiang's heavily made-up appearance on stage. Gu Ran, what exactly do you want? His voice was icy and piercing. In the past, whenever he put on a stern face and spoke to me in this tone, I would carefully comfort him and cater to his every whim, afraid of displeasing him. Perhaps he thought he could still use the same old methods to deal with me. Gu Ran. Don't you understand yet? I never loved you. The only reason I'm with you is because you look like her. Shurye walked down from the stage with a cold expression and came to my side. His words cut through my heart like a knife, leaving it bleeding profusely. The surroundings erupted in noise. The guests at Shurye and Shizuka's wedding appeared like a crowd of indifferent spectators, coldly staring at the scene before them. How ridiculous, even after being abandoned. She still shamelessly chases after him. I've never seen such a brazen woman. Who wouldn't say so? If I were her, I would have killed myself long ago, not wanting to face such humiliation. Harsh words kept reaching my ears, making my heart ache. My heart is throbbing with pain. My vision was filled with dizzying stars, and I nearly collapsed weakly to the ground. Yet Shurye didn't reach out to steady me, instead sneering coldly. Gu Ran, have you even looked at what you've become? I must have been blind back then. How could someone like you ever compare to Ran? I was momentarily speechless, only able to stare helplessly at Shurye's once so familiar face. Once, this face had held my hands, smiling as it told me, "You're the most beautiful girl in the world." Now, he looked at me with demonic disdain, saying, "You're not even fit to compare with Ran." Through the wedding venue's glass, I caught sight of my own reflection. At that moment, I felt a surge of astonishment. The reflection of my face in the glass had somehow become pale and haggard, with purple lips and disheveled hair, looking as weathered as a 40-year-old woman, but I'm only 27. Over these years, to help Shurye rise step by step, I've hardly rested properly and rarely spent money on dressing myself up. Shurye's face was full of disgust. But Shurye, I became like this all for your sake. Once, I was also a flower-like girl. The wedding venue was filled with noise. The groom before me should have been my husband, but now I stand here like a sudden intruder, a beggar at a loss. Host, unfortunately, the death countdown has begun. 1 minute remaining. The system's icy, emotionless voice echoed in my ears. The last minute, I felt as if my heart was being tightly gripped by a hand, about to be crushed at any moment. Bai Ranxiang clung to Shurye's arm, her white dress making her face appear even more radiant and charming, with a coquettish smile playing on her lips. 6. Compared to my haggard appearance, Bai Ranxiang was so beautiful she seemed otherworldly. She grabbed Shurye's arm, feigning coquetry as she persuaded, "Oh, no, it's my fault. I shouldn't have come back to the country, shouldn't have disturbed you and sis." As she spoke, teardrops formed on her face, her pitiful expression designed to tug at heartstrings. Shurye's expression darkened further. He reached out to wipe the tears from Bai Ranxiang's face, then turned to glare coldly at me. Gu Ran. What exactly do you want? Didn't I already say it? I'll transfer 3 million to your card as compensation. I opened my mouth, wanting to say something. 3 million. But Shurye, Do you really think I care? Unexpectedly, Shuri waved his hand impatiently and signaled the security guards to drag me out. They roughly grabbed my dress and pulled my arms, their immense strength leaving several bruises on my skin. As I looked at Shuri, my heart sank to the bottom. Ran, get out. Shuri's face was full of anger as he yelled at me. He felt so unfamiliar, nothing like the Shuri I remembered. Weren't you threatening to disappear? Weren't you going to kill yourself? Shuri continued shouting. My heart felt like it was being split in two by a knife, the pain unbearable. Death countdown. The system's voice sounded. I'm going to die. 3. Shuri shielded by Ranxiang behind him and pushed me out. 2. Go die already. Shuri roared at me. My heart beat slower and slower, gradually stopping its pulse. 1. Like a butterfly whose life has faded, it stopped fluttering its dazzling wings and fell into a muddy patch of dust. In the last second, I struggled to open my eyes and looked in the direction of Pigeon Beach. I have completely lost hope in Shuri. But I still want to see that person one more time, that man who was like a warm, big dog. I don't know if he'll come. Su Wanbei, if there's another chance, I'll definitely choose you. Ran. I saw a black car stop in front of me. Su Wanbei rushed out of the car with tears streaming down his face, holding me tightly, completely disregarding the pools of blood I was spitting out that stained his expensive coat. He still came. Su Wanbei, it seems he has never let me down. I closed my eyes and took my last breath, lying peacefully in Su Wanbei's arms, asleep like a fairy returning to a warm harbor. For some reason, after my death, my soul didn't immediately dissipate but instead hovered in midair, overlooking everything before me. The system's voice sounded. Since you're already here, you might as well stay to see the ending. There was a hint of regret in its voice. I nodded, watching the commotion below like a detached spectator. Because of my death, Shuri and Bai Ranxiang's wedding naturally couldn't continue. After the guests had left, Shuri stared blankly at my lifeless body in Su Wanbei's arms, his face turning ashen. He stood frozen for a long time, his lips parting slightly, but ultimately failing to utter a single word. Bai Ranxiang was also terrified by the scene, her legs trembling uncontrollably. She instinctively grabbed Shuri's sleeve, her voice quivering with tears. Yay, but Shuri roughly shook her off. I saw Shuri turn his head and roar at Bai Ranxiang. Shut up, if you hadn't come back, she wouldn't have died. I just wanted to laugh, a cold laugh. Has Shuri always been like this? The faults are always others, as if he's never done anything wrong. Bai Ranxiang was startled by Shuri's tone. With reddened eyes, she shrank to the side, not daring to utter another word. Shuri slowly walked up to my corpse, reaching out to caress my face, but Su Wanbei shoved him away violently, causing him to stumble. Su Wanbei's eyes were deep red, like a beast protecting its young, growling low. Get out. Shuri wasn't usually one to have a good temper, but this time, he just stood back up from the mud, dazedly asking, what happened to her? Su Wanbei didn't speak, gently carrying me back to the car before turning around and delivering a fierce punch to Shuri's face. The punch was so powerful that it broke Shuri's mouth and knocked out his 2 front teeth. What's wrong? Ha! Su Wanbei kicked again, sending Shuri sprawling to the ground. Myocarditis caused by getting caught in the rain. Did you know? When she went to the hospital alone and collapsed on the road with high fever, where were you? When she hid alone at Pigeon Beach, crying her heart out, where were you? Shuri took punch after punch from Su Wanbei like a mindless fool. He didn't resist, just muttered in the mud. Myocarditis, caught from the rain. Where am I? Where was he? He was abroad. Trying to reconcile with his unattainable love, he remembered that day when I, pale-faced, begged him if he could pour me a glass of water, pleaded with him to take me to the hospital. Even when he saw my medical records, he still resolutely chose to leave, to go find Bai Ranxiang. It's snowing again. Heavy snow covered the pools of blood I coughed up onto the ground. Su Wanbei paid no more attention to Shuri, driving me away from the wedding venue. Shuri remained lying dazedly on the ground, letting the heavy snow cover his body, his face. His eyes were glazed over, muttering incessantly, why didn't you tell me earlier? Had I known, I wouldn't have left. Why? How ridiculous. Some people only regret after they've lost something. Bai Ranxiang stood up from the side, trying to help Shuri up, but Shuri pushed her away like a wild beast, shouting with red eyes, get out, it's all your fault. Bai Ranxiang left. In the vast expanse of snow, only Shuri stood like a solitary bird, imprinting the white snow. Shuri went to the hospital where I had my checkup. From the doctor's hands, he received my medical records from that year. Myocarditis caused by severe cold from prolonged exposure to rain. A line of text pierced Shuri's eyes like a sharp blade. He recalled that night, because he heard Bai Ranxiang had a new boyfriend abroad. He got completely drunk. It was me who braved the heavy rain to bring him home. That very night, I caught a severe cold. 7. As for him, he resolutely went abroad to find Byron-xiang. Yi walked out of the hospital in a daze, with red-rimmed eyes. He tightly clutched the medical report in his hand and took a taxi to Pigeon Beach. Coincidentally, the taxi he hailed was the same driver who had taken me to Pigeon Beach that day. On the way, the bored driver started recounting his experience of picking me up that day. Ah, that young girl looked so pitiful. Still wearing her wedding dress, her eyes swollen from crying. What kind of scumbag would abandon such a wonderful young girl? The driver kept chattering the whole way, but Yi didn't respond a single word. The driver looked puzzled. Don't you think so, young man, hey? He turned around and saw Yi in the back seat, his face already streaked with tears. Yi came to Pigeon Beach and knocked on Aunt Lou's door next door, wanting to ask what I had been doing at Pigeon Beach during those 3 days. But Aunt Lou didn't say a word when she saw him, just slammed the door shut with a cold expression. Yi stood dumbfounded outside the door, hearing Aunt Lou's curse from inside. Scum. He opened the small house we once lived in, that tiny room 203, slept on the little bed we used to share, and stared blankly at the moon outside the window. The panda plushie was held in his arms, yet carried no warmth at all. In the pitch-black night, the panda plushie made a faint sound. Ran, don't cry. Ye was wrong. Ran, don't cry. Ye was wrong. Ye's tears streamed down, soaking the stuffed toy. Goo Ran, why didn't you tell me? Why? In the dead of night, Yi went mad. He tore at the stuffed toy like a madman, smashing every object in the room, recklessly unleashing his fury. It seemed this way could alleviate the guilt in his heart. Yi stayed in the small room we once lived in at Pigeon Beach, going without food or water for a week. Only then did he choose to leave, but the moment he returned to the city, he saw 2 familiar figures, Byron-xiang, with Su Wanbei. Byron-xiang held Su Wanbei's arm, smiling with utmost tenderness. Once, Byron-xiang used to hold his arm like this too. Yi rushed forward, frantically pulling Byron-xiang, demanding to know why she cheated. Kuberangxiang merely cast him a faint glance and spoke with a cold laugh. Shirya, do you really think I love you? If I loved you, why would I have gone abroad back then? And why would I have fallen in love overseas? Shirya was stunned. Byron-xiang continued, because I don't love you at all. Yi stood frozen in place, only managing to speak after a long pause. But, you came back to find me. That's because you're rich now. Byron-xiang burst into laughter as if she'd heard the funniest joke. Because you've got money, you're no longer that penniless loser you used to be. I don't love you, I love your money. Do you understand? Ye's eyes turned red. In the end, the only one who ever truly loved him was that silly, naive Gu Ran, and what Byron-xiang loved was merely the money Gu Ran helped him earn. Byron-xiang tightly clung to Su Wanbei's arm beside her. Now, I found brother Wanbei. He's richer than you. Much richer. Do you really think I'd still choose you? Throughout it all, Su Wanbei just stood with folded arms, his expression unreadable as he calmly observed the scene before him. After a moment, he finally spoke, addressing Yi directly in front of Byron-xiang. Pathetic, isn't it? You abandoned someone who truly loved you, for something that could be bought with money. Byron-xiang remained silent, not even a change in her expression. As if the thing Su Wanbei mentioned that could be bought with money wasn't her, Yi went mad. His mind was in a daze, eyes bloodshot. He pulled out a dagger from nowhere and suddenly stabbed it into Byron-xiang's chest. It's all your fault. It's all because of you, you bitch. If it weren't for you, Ran wouldn't have died. Die, go to hell with Ran. The heavy snow fell, mingling with Byron-xiang's bright red blood, creating a particularly gruesome scene. My soul hovered in midair, watching all of this unfold. Byron-xiang is also dead. What do you think? The system's voice echoed in my ear. Just feels dull, I replied, because Yi still blames others for their own mistakes to this day. Yi was arrested for committing murder in public. The court ruled to confiscate all property and sentenced the defendant to life imprisonment. Yi's remaining life would be spent in the pitch-black darkness of prison. Byron-xiang also died. Su Wanbei returned to his company as if nothing had happened. He sold his company, donated all the money to a charity, then moved to Pigeon Beach, living in the room I once occupied. Every morning he'd drive to the seaside to watch the sunrise, never forgetting to bring that panda plush toy. I thought everything was over, but a year later, Su Wanbei went to the prison to visit Yi once. I clearly saw that when he entered, he had a bag of pesticide fertilizer in his pocket. When he emerged, I saw a glistening tear streak down Su Wanbei's face. Gazing at the vast sky and pristine snow, he murmured softly, Ran, I've avenged you. Shirya died in prison. The cause of death was food poisoning. When he died, He was still looking in the direction of Pigeon Beach. Everything is over, I whispered to the system. It's all over, right? Not yet, but the system responded to me like this. Let me show you what you were like 10 years ago, before you accepted the mission to pursue ye. The system's cold voice rang out. Before I could answer, a dizzying flash of bright light appeared before my eyes. When I opened my eyes again, I found my soul outside the window of the hospital's intensive care unit. Inside the room, a much younger Suwanbe sat dazed by the hospital bed, holding a photo with a haggard expression. In the photo were teenage versions of me and Suwanbe. We were embracing each other, gazing at the vast sea before us, laughing freely. When did I ever take a photo with Suwanbe? Could it be that we knew each other over a decade ago? My gaze skipped past Suwanbe and landed on the figure lying on the hospital bed. That was clearly me in my younger days. I seemed to remember something. Everything from the past flashed before my eyes like a movie. Do you remember now? The system's voice echoed in my ears. Do you remember why Suwanbe knew your name the first time he met you? Do you remember why Suwanbe loved you so inexplicably? I remember now. Suwanbe and I grew up together. As a child, he pointed to the dazzling butterfly love's flowered diamond ring in the display case and told me he would give me one that big when he married me someday. We could have stayed together just like that, naturally getting married, having children, and growing old. But when I was 17, I got into a car accident and fell into a coma. It was during that coma that I accepted the system's mission to win over Shiryi. When I woke up again, I had already forgotten everything from my past. I forgot Suwanbe, forgot Dai Lianhua, forgot our vows, with only one thought occupying my mind to pursue Shiryi. Yet Suwanbe still tried his best to pretend to be someone who had never known me, silently accompanying me, watching me hurt myself for Shiryi, watching me get hurt by Shiryi, crying bitterly on Pigeon Beach. Then, avenge me, Ran. Open your eyes and look at me. In the hospital room, Suwanbe, with tears in his eyes, gazed at my unconscious form and whispered, your eyes are so beautiful. I long to see them just one more time. Even in this spectral state, I felt my heart shatter with unbearable agony. My soul transformed into a vibrant butterfly, alighting on Suwanbe's fingertip, dancing softly before him. Gu Ran. The system's voice sounded. Begin a new conquest mission. Conquest.